Hey, I do apologize for my tardiness. I was having some uh, technical difficulties with my microphone, but I pray that you guys have had an amazing day. First and foremost, let me know that y'all can hear me. Let me know that y'all are here and that y'all can hear me. Hopefully, you guys can y'all hear me because I was having mic trouble. Hey, can y'all hear me? I'm just gonna keep talking. Thank you. All right, thank you. So today I'm gonna be dealing with something called triangulation or narcissistic triangulation. This is something that I've been studying for a little while now, and there are different types of triangulation. I read a lot of content and watched videos about triangulation. And the funny thing for me was, when I'm studying stuff, a lot of times I'm like, oh yeah, I've been through that. Oh, I know that. And so it's stuff that I already teach on in many cases, but not necessarily, didn't necessarily have language for it. And so that it was something that I wanted to bring to you guys. Whenever you study narcissistic triangulation, you'll find different teachings on it, talking about it from different angles. I wanted to bring it all together in one spot and help you guys to understand triangulation. But before we go into it, you guys know what I'm going to ask. You know what I'm going to ask? Let's like and share. Let's like and share. I just finished eating. I have to stop doing that because I realized once I finish eating, it makes my mouth feel like it's just constantly watering. All right, so we're going to be dealing with triangulation, and as I'm talking to you guys, you're gonna come to realize that a lot of what I'm gonna share, that's either been done to you, you've done it to somebody else, or you're currently doing it, or it could be somebody's currently doing this to you. No, not strangulation, triangulation. And so you're gonna come to understand. And one of the things I want to come out and say, because I know that I've titled this narcissistic triangulation, but it's important to note that this is not just a behavior of the narcissist. It is a behavior of toxic people. And then it's a behavior of immature people. So the thing about it is, when you're dealing with somebody, for example, who's immature, a person who's immature may not be a narcissist, but they can be narcissistic. And a lot of times it can be hard to tell the difference between a toxic person, an immature person, and a narcissist. When you're dealing with an immature person, you can be dealing with somebody, for example, when you're dealing with immaturity, you're dealing with somebody who's self-centered. That's all immaturity is. Immaturity is not having enough revelation outside of yourself. It's not having enough revelation to see the world outside of what you want, to see the world outside of your own personal plans, to see the world outside of your own personal agenda, to see the world outside of your own personal offense. That's immaturity. And a lot of times, now, first and foremost, when you come into the body of Christ, you are considered, or you are labeled a babe in Christ, meaning you're going to be immature to the things of the word. And so you could be relatively mature to the world system, but be immature in the word. So in the world system, you've gotten to the point where you're maybe selfless, and you tend to help people and you do all those things. However, when you come into the body of Christ, that requires you to die to yourself. And this is how you begin to dismantle that, the system of the flesh. This is how you begin to dismantle the system of the flesh. I don't know if we have a storm coming, but my dog is just acting weird and it's getting on my nerves. But this is how you begin to dismantle the systems of the flesh. As long as that flesh continues to live, as long as you continue to you continue to give yourself what you want. When you are, let's say, not studying the word, you're not implementing what you're learning in the word, learning from the word. As long as you remain or you continue to do that, then you're going to be relatively immature and self-centered. Consequently, when you're dealing with immature people, they're going to be pretty much emotional. And, just to give you a little bit of information outside of what I want to teach, when you're dealing with the soul, is the mind, will, and emotions. And one of the things I came to understand is that even within that dynamic, there has to be a leader. Every system has to have something that's superior in that system. So within that system, the mind, the will, and emotions, the highest part of that system has to be the mind. The highest part, or the greater part of that system, has to be the mind. But if the emotions are at the top of that particular pyramid, and we're going to be dealing a lot tonight with pyramids and triangles, whatever. But if your emotions are at the top, then what ends up happening, well, you have a lot of people, they have a tendency to fluctuate. But for the most part, their emotions are in the lead at all times. Even the decisions they make those decisions even when they're calm. They make those decisions based on how they feel. They make those decisions based on, hey, I don't want to be offended. I don't want to be scared. They make all of their decisions. So their emotions are at the top of that particular pyramid. And when you come across a person whose emotions are at the top, first and foremost, that person is going to be relatively immature. And then that person is going to be relatively broken, because one thing about it is the way that God wired us or set us up. We are in a world, we get to experience things. And if your emotions are at the top, like if you're controlled or led by how you feel, then what you're going to do is you're going to feel everything, things that you should not feel, things that you should not be moved by. You will get offended by things that you shouldn't be offended by. You'll be easily offended, easily hurt, or what have you. You will overthink everything. Somebody passed by you, and let's just say the person doesn't speak, then you will overthink that. And that's because you put your emotions at the top. Now, I'm not saying that you're going to be perfect in it, but emotional people, this is something that they do all the time. Their emotions are at the top. And so in order for them to grow, first and foremost, growth is dependent upon information. So you have to take in more information. You got to study the word, get you some books, get you a mentor. You got to have somebody to correct you. You got to have somebody to cut you, or what have you. And that's the way that you begin to grow out of that. The average human being will never grow out of that. The average human being, and I'm not just talking about unsaved folks, because this is not a channel dealing with what the world does. We want to bring the world into the church. But when you're dealing with the average human being, they keep their emotions right here, or they put their emotions on the same level as their mind. And so it depends on what they're going through, what's going to be in the lead. Consequently, you guys have heard me talk about, and I'm kind of getting ahead of myself. You guys have heard me talk about, my own personal journey, even when I talk about friends and stuff like that. My own personal journey, my own encounters with friends. I've learned a lot as a female, and it's because I'm called to women. I see a lot of things that other women, so a lot of women can go out there and they can establish friendships, and they're not necessarily paying attention to certain things. But when you're called to something, then one of the things that's going to happen is you become very observant. You become very detailed. I don't even know how to say this. You just become very observant. Let's just leave it at that. Meaning, my dad told me, for example, that when I was growing up, he said that whenever we got into a car with people that we didn't know, or people that I didn't know, one of the things he noted about me was that I would get completely quiet. Like I would be in the back seat with all of these kids or what have you, and I would just get completely quiet. I would not say anything in that car. But by the end of that car ride, I will have made a decision. So by the end of that car ride, maybe I'm not talking to none of them. Because I see that they're aggressive, they're controlling, they're a little bit sharp tongued or what have you, because I was the type of kid where, look, I don't want to deal with the mess. I don't want to deal with the gossip. I just want to go have some fun. But at the end of that car ride, I may turn to the right or turn to the left, and I start talking to this girl because I've heard her talk. I watched them engage while in that car, and I've made a decision that, I think she's cool. So by the end of that car ride, I would start engaging her. And so I'm very observant when it comes to relationships or what have you. I'm very observant, especially with my female friends. I'm observant of the behavior. And this is not something, when I say observant, I'm not talking about I walk around with a pen and paper like, let me take, I see that. I don't do that. I'm saying by instinct, quite naturally. Over the years, at first I wasn't, I didn't realize I was doing that. But over the years, I came to see something that was common with women. And you guys hear me talking about it sometimes. I came to understand, see some things that were very common with women. For example, cold shoulder, the cold shoulder. And so I started communicating, even when I was in the world, I started communicating with my friends, like, don't do that to me. Don't do that to me. I always prefer communication. I always prefer, my friend to come in and say, hey, you did something and that offended me. You did this and I didn't like that, or what have you, or you said something. I've never liked the cold shoulder. As a matter of fact, whenever somebody starts giving me the cold shoulder, whenever I had a friend, for example, and all of a sudden she just, let's just say, we went to school together. If we're going through school and all of a sudden she gives me the cold shoulder, she's not talking to me. Typically, every day she talks to me. But she's not talking to me. She talks to everybody but me. Then when she comes off of that, when she comes back up to me and starts talking to me, I'll say, don't talk to me. And, I just tell her, don't talk to me. And I'm like, I don't play these type of games, because at the end of the day, if I did something, you could have talked to me about it. You could have communicated with me about it. But taking like an entire day or 2 or 3 days and just kind of putting me on punishment is not okay. And so I've always let my friends know that that's not okay. But as an adult, over in my 20s and in my 30s, I came to see that there are certain things that are very commonplace, and they're so commonplace that they have become culturally accepted. They become culturally accepted. So there are a lot of toxic behaviors that a lot of times women exhibit because, again, of immaturity. Sometimes some women are narcissistic, and then some people are narcissists. And of course, that can be for men too. A narcissistic trait, for example, that I've seen women exhibit. I often think about this friend of mine that anytime she got upset with me, I would talk to her directly about something that she did, but she would not talk to me directly about anything, about being offended with anything I said. What she would say was, yeah, I'm going to be consecrating, so I'm not talking on the phone. See, we lived in different states. I'm not going to be talking on the phone for about a week, or I'm not going to be talking on the phone for about 2 weeks to a month, or what have you. And at first, I didn't realize. At first, I was like, she's trying to put me on punishment. But then when I saw that it was a pattern, I realized that she was really putting me on punishment. This is the way that she handles offense rather than communicating that. And that is not healthy behavior. That's not a healthy relationship. That's a person that is looking for some measure of control. Now, when I say control, and I haven't gotten into the lesson, I'm letting you guys pile in here. When I say control, it does not necessarily mean that dominant control. It needs to be understood, right? It's manipulation. It needs to be understood that control is not always dominant. Control is not always dominant. When we say control, we think about that person that says, go sit down over there. And they use their emotions to control you. That's one form of control. That's dominant control, and that's what we largely understand to be control. But a form of control too can be manipulation. It can be subtle. It can be, well, it's okay. That always happens to me, but that's control, because the person is not giving you the opportunity to make a conscious decision, but instead, thank you, Sister Tasha, God bless you. The person is not giving you an opportunity to make a conscious decision or a conscious choice, because whenever you're dealing with control, when you're dealing with narcissism, the problem with the person is they want what they want, and they're not willing to have anything else. They're not willing to accept, because in normal relationships, there's give and take, which means that in a normal relationship, I have to make sacrifices. In a normal relationship, let's just say, for example, I immediately think about when I was married, and I had a time where I was being very immature because I'm very ticky as an eater. Like, I don't like a lot of foods. It's just like I'm just weird with foods. And I had a moment of selfishness, a moment of self-centeredness, where we used to go out every weekend, and I wanted to go to one of the restaurants that I was coming, because I tend to go to the same restaurants because I know the food is going to be good or what have you. And he wanted to go to this little small hole in the wall, weird looking restaurant. And we ended up getting into a major argument about that, because I was like, I'm not going to probably like the food. My line of reasoning at that moment, which was childish, was that he liked all the food everywhere we go. So no matter where we go, you're going to like the food. But I'm not going to like the food. So that's not fair. It's not fair for me to come up into this place and you over here and you licking your fingers and licking the plate. And I'm over here still hungry because I don't like the food. That was very selfish of me. And it took me, and I didn't realize it at that day. I didn't even realize it that year. It took me over the years to kind of reflect on some of the things that I did and say, hey, that was very selfish of me. And so over the course of just over the years, I've come to see like some of the behaviors that people demonstrate. And like I said, I'm a patterns person. I have a habit of noticing patterns. That's the way that God wired me. And so, hey y'all, how y'all doing? Hey, Big DB, God bless you. But I have a habit of noticing habits. And it's not something that I study. It's just a pattern of mine. Because if a habit is off, then that's what's going to, it kind of triggers me like, okay, what's going on? But I have a tendency to notice patterns or what have you. And if the pattern um, moves. And so when it comes to my family, for example, if one of my family members all of a sudden stops calling me, and I notice that she calls me every other day, but she just all of a sudden stops calling me, then I'm going to notice that pattern, or she just, whenever I get around her, she's just different. I'm going to notice that pattern. I'm going to be like, okay, what's up? What's going on? What have you. So anyhow, I don't want to go too much into that. Welcome aboard, guys. I want to be talking about something called triangulation, and I'm going to be talking about the different forms of triangulation. Again, I think it's important for me to know. Thank you, Big DV. God bless you. It's important for me to note that when I'm talking about this, I'm talking about 3 dimensions or 3 levels. There are immature people. It doesn't mean that they don't know any better. They know better. But when you're dealing with an immature person, they want what they want. Then you're dealing with toxic people. And a lot of times, immature people can be both immature and toxic toxic people can be both toxic and immature. And just like toxic people can be, you can have people who are immature, toxic, and narcissistic. Then again, you may have people who are straight up bona fide narcissists. The difference between the narcissist and the narcissistic person is the narcissist has a demon called the Jezebel spirit. They are in agreement with a demonic system. When you're dealing with somebody who's narcissistic, basically you're just dealing with a toxic person. When you're dealing with somebody who's narcissistic, they're either toxic or they can be relatively immature. I've said this before, children are naturally narcissistic, meaning they always think about how they feel, what they want. They really don't care about you or what you feel, what you want, what have you, but it doesn't make them bad. It just makes them immature. They're just immature. And so that's one of the major characteristics of narcissism is selfishness, is self-centeredness. And so when we start talking about the triangle or the triangulation of the narcissist, basically what you're dealing with is a person who wants their own way. And in a natural world, in natural relationships, we come to understand that, for example, with me, I understand I'm not going to always have my own way. Whenever I go out to eat with my sister in Christ or what have you, I'm still very ticky as to what we eat, as to what I eat. And I always have my preferences, and these are the restaurants that I typically go to, but she wants to go try something else. And many times I have to kind of just, say, well, if I want to have a friend, I can't sit up there and say, well, let's just go where I want to go because, I'm not a seafood person, or, I'm not into this, or I'm not into that. No, the best thing to do is to go into a restaurant and just let that person enjoy themselves, what have you. And if you don't find anything on the menu, just find something light and, sit there, talk to them, communicate with them, laugh with them. And then when you leave, stop and grab you something to eat. I have done that. When you leave, stop and grab you something to eat on your way home, rather than sitting there and making people go where you want them to go. So I wanted to make sure that, thank you, Big DV, God bless you. I wanted to make sure that I'm establishing that again, that when I talk about this, I don't want you to think automatically that I'm just dealing with the narcissist. Sometimes we're dealing with a narcissistic person, somebody who may have come from a toxic background, a narcissistic background. Then again, you can be dealing with a relatively immature person. Either way, it's still toxic behavior and it's not good. All right, I'm going to talk about the 3 types that I've been studying, and they are family of origin triangulation, family of origin triangulation, flying monkey triangulation, and romantic or platonic triangulation. So I'm going to start from the bottom of the list and move up. First and foremost, I'm going to give you a definition of triangulation, but this is an incomplete definition. It does not describe the entirety of the triangulation system, but it's something I got off Wikipedia. It was the one that seemed to be more accurate than the rest of the definitions I looked at. Triangulation is a manipulation tactic where one person will not communicate directly with another person instead using a third party to relay communication to the second, thus forming a triangle. It also refers to a form of splitting in which one person manipulates a relationship between two parties by controlling communication between them. Triangulation may manifest as a manipulative device to engineer rivalry between two people, known as divide and conquer, or playing one person against the other. Now, I'm gonna read that definition again, but while I'm reading it, I want you guys, I love to see you guys interact. While I'm reading it, I want you to let me know if you've experienced it by just simply raise your hand. Have you ever experienced triangulation? I'm gonna read the definition again, but while I'm reading it, I would love you guys to engage and write in the comments if you've experienced it. Let me know if this light is too bright, because I had it too bright the last time. This is a new light thing I got, what have you. Let me see if I can turn this light down just a little bit. I feel like it's okay. Here we go. See if I can turn it down just a little bit. All right, just a little bit, because I feel like it's just way too light. Okay, I'm going to read the definition again, but you can say yes or raise your hand if you've experienced this. Triangulation is a manipulation tactic where one person will not communicate directly with another person, instead using a third party to relay communication to the second, thus forming a triangle. It also refers to a form of splitting in which one person manipulates a relationship between two parties by controlling communication between them. Triangulation may manifest itself as a manipulative device to engineer rivalry between two people, known as divide and conquer, or playing one person against another. Many of you've experienced this with your friends. If you have a group of friends that are mutual, then you may have experienced that with your friends, where one friend will go to the other and they will create a divide or a split between you and that friend. It immediately takes me to this one friend I used to have back when I was in the world. She used to work with me, and I remember this young lady. One of the things that, like, we were close friends or what have you. She literally had to ride with me, so we were together every day. We worked full time, and one of the things I remember about her was that whenever she would, establish a new friend, what she would always do was, she didn't know how to have, like, me and her, we were different. When I established a new friend, I would bring my new friend to her and I would introduce them, because I just wanted all my friends to be friends. I would go and tell her, girl, you should meet her. She's real cool, or what have you. And I tell the other girl, yeah, she's real cool. That was just me. I just wanted all my friends to kind of be merged. Well, she was different. And this is one of the tactics of a narcissist. Not saying that she was a narcissist, but it's a narcissistic behavior. Narcissistic people typically don't want you connected to other people. They like to have parties of friendships. They like to have a friendship over here, a friendship group over here, and a friendship group over here. And the reason they like to divide their friendship groups is because they're talking about you to this friendship group, and then they're talking about somebody else to you. So they like to create a divide within the groups. They don't like the groups to merge. And so with her, I didn't understand, like, every time she made a new friend, she would just become very distant toward me. And like I said, I'm a patterns person. And I would notice, like, we would go to break every single day together. Every single day, she would come and say, hey, where you going to break? Hey, where we going for lunch or what have you? Where we going? Where we going? Or even on our 15-minute breaks. But whenever she would establish a new friendship within the company, I remember I just going around looking, hey, have you seen, I'll make up a name for her. Have you seen Amanda? Have you seen Amanda? And they're looking like, oh no, Amanda already went to lunch with such and such. Now, let me ask you something. And I'm asking you guys a genuine question. When I got upset because of that, was I being jealous? Was I being jealous of her new friendship? I'm gonna listen, this message is gonna deliver some of y'all tonight. Was I being jealous of her friendship by me getting upset? Okay, thank you, dear. We got one no. I see some yeps. I don't know if that was a yep for this. Okay. No, a little bit. No. Okay. Okay. Yes. Okay, I see a yes. All right. I'm about to show you guys something. No. Right. I wasn't being jealous. See, this is what narcissism does, is it makes it look like you're being jealous. I wasn't being jealous. We had a pattern. We have been going to lunch for like 2, 3, 4 months, every single day together, going on break every single day together. All of a sudden, she did not communicate with me that, hey, I got somebody else as a friend and I don't want you partnering with us on our lunch date. If she had said, hey, Tiffany, I'm going to lunch with such and such on today, I would have been like, okay. I mean, I would have been confused as to, okay, why you don't invite me? But it was a pattern. We had a pattern. This was something that we did. So patterns create expectations. Patterns create expectations. So I'm sitting there and I'm like, okay, right, pattern interrupted. I'm sitting there like, wait, she went to lunch? So when she came back from lunch, I was a little upset with her. I was like, you didn't have to. She was like, Tiffany, I went to lunch with somebody else. Oh my goodness. What did she do? She started making me look like I was a jealous friend. And that wasn't the case. It was never one of the case. She had friends. I was never jealous of them. And this is what narcissistic people do, is that they will take something like that and they'll make it look like, and you really do look like the bad person because you're the one being emotional. You're the one being upset. But what people are not understanding on the other end is, hey, look, this is something like we've been going to lunch like this for a year, or for 3 months, for 9 months. We've been going to lunch like this every single day. And she would find me every day and say, hey, where we going? Hey, where we going? And then all of a sudden there's a shift, there's a change. And one of the things that I came to discover was that, and she would always come back and tell me, her friend, like, let's say, for example, if I'm like, okay, well, why you didn't invite me? She will say, well, let's just call her friend Jan. She'll say, well, Jan doesn't like you. And I was like, well, but why? I don't know Jan. Sorry, I don't know. Thank you. But I would be like, why? I don't know Jan. Jan doesn't know me. And eventually I discovered the pattern. The pattern was every single one of her friends did not like me. Every single one of her friends did not like me. She had separate groups. Every single one of her friends did not like me. That's when it came on to me. That's when it dawned on me. She was talking negatively about me to her friends, and she was talking about her friends negatively to me. So that's the triangle. They create a triangle that benefits them. That's when you're dealing with narcissistic triangulation. Now, there are different forms of it, as I mentioned, but that's Platonic. You can see the romantic side. So let's talk about romantic. Right. So they will paint a picture to one person. And honestly, sometimes they're very skilled in making you look like you fit into that. Because I actually did. I actually can see where I probably look like a jealous woman. We had a woman, for example, that was working with us who was older, that she saw it because she was close to both of us. So she kind of acted like a mom, auntie to us or what have you. So, she understood it and she would kind of call it out or what have you. She'll call it out. She wouldn't say, like, she would stay out of it. But if she saw that it was getting grainy, grimy or what have you, she'd be like, well, yeah, you are wrong because you do go to lunch with her all the time. Well, I went to lunch with somebody else. I don't see the big deal. And I'm like, I don't care about you going to lunch with anybody else. I seriously don't care about that. Why are you making it look like I care about you having other friends? That's not the situation here. The situation here was that you did that in a grimy way. Thank you, Sister Sherry. God bless you. You did that in a grimy way. You didn't have to do it that way or what have you. Because now I'm just sitting there looking like, okay. And so it got to a point where she would go through those patterns. She would go through a pattern where she'll just almost stop talking to me, and she'll just start talking to somebody else and hanging out with that person, and she'll be establishing herself with that person. But then, I got to the point I'm just like, okay, well, we not cool because she's walking through here, she's barely speaking to me, she's acting real funny toward me, and I'd be like, okay. And then she'd come walking up to me like ain't nothing ever happened. Hey, girl, what? And I'm just sitting there looking like. And I would call her out on it. And I was like, look, I don't do that bipolar crap. I don't know how to have relationships like that. I don't know how to deal with stuff like that. But that was a form, that's triangulation. So when you're dealing with triangulation, the triangle, there's the person at the top. The person at the top wants something from every individual relationship in the triangle. There's something that they want from every relationship in the triangle. And they are strategic and intentional, very manipulative. They do these things so that they can extract from you what they want from you, and they can extract from the person what they want from the person. And one of the things you'll see is that these triangles are married. But again, this is the first one, which is romantic or platonic triangulation. I just gave you an example of platonic triangulation. Is when, friends, it can be mutual friends, or it can be people that you don't know, but they basically pit you up against the other person. And in many cases, it's very difficult to see who's wrong. Now, let's talk about romantic triangulation. Romantic triangulation happens when, let's say you're married. You're married to a guy, and we're going to call him, who we calling him today? Who we calling him today? I ain't going to wait on y'all. We're going to call him Mark. Let's say you're married to a dude named Mark, and Mark happens to be narcissistic, or he happens to be a narcissist, or maybe he's narcissistic. One of the things that, when you're dealing with triangulation, again, okay, we're gonna go with Steve. Y'all, I see the Jaquan and the Jake and the Steve and the Tyrone. Okay, all right. We're gonna go with Jaquan, since that was. Let me see, who was the first one. We can go with Jaquan, since Jaquan was the first one. We'll go with Jaquan since he was the first one. So you're married to Jaquan, and Jaquan sits back and he gets into he's at the top of the pyramid. So Jaquan is strategic in how he does his relationships. When you're dealing with a narcissist, they have the appetite of hell. You cannot satisfy them. So Jaquan feels like, if you did this and you did that, we would have a better marriage. What have you? And then, Jaquan feels like you're too good for him. He's a little bit of he's insecure, which most narcissists and narcissistic people are. He deals with insecurity. He feels like maybe you're too pretty for him, or you're so pretty. So what Jaquan does is he strategically, now the marriage is supposed to be between you and Jaquan. So just to kind of draw it out, the marriage is supposed to be between you and Jaquan. The marriage is supposed to be like this, between you and Jaquan. But what Jaquan does is he creates a pyramid. Now, he puts himself at the top of that pyramid, and he makes you equal with his coworker, or he makes you equal with the neighbor. So how does he do that? He does that by comparing you to her. And he sits back and he says, well, I like how she keeps herself up. One thing I like about her is that you can tell whenever she get married, she ain't gonna, and so now you walking around the house, you got 3 whole kids, and you're trying to manage a household, you're trying to do a lot of things. But what he's doing, basically triangulation, is bringing a third party in. If you just want a short definition of it, it's bringing a third party in. Now, the third party can be malicious, or a lot of times they are ignorant to the fact that they're actually being used to triangulate you. They're ignorant to the fact that they're being used to triangulate you, but he will bring a third party in, or a narcissistic person will bring a third party in. And the goal in that is to create a destabilization and to create insecurity. The main goal, you just said it, Sister Patricia, the main goal is jealousy. This is the one thing that the narcissist wants you to feel more than anything. This is why I've said this, and I'll say it again. I'll say it with my chest. I told y'all again, let go of these people and get off of their profiles. Let go of these people and get off of their profiles. Move on with your life. Because if a narcissist realizes, or a toxic person realizes that let's say you're an ex, you're on their profile. They created the destabilization in you while you were in a relationship, and they made you feel somewhat guilty or what have you. And now one of the ways they can tell that you are monitoring their profile is that because they're monitoring your profile. Listen, the way they tell is, let's just say we got Jaquan again. Jaquan knows, or he senses, or he has suspicion that you're monitoring his profile, or he got some inside revelation from somebody that you're monitoring his profile. He will leave his profile up and he'll take a picture and post it up with his new girl, or take a picture with a female cousin that you don't even know, or what have you. Then he will monitor your profile for a response. If you're monitoring his profile, guess what's going to happen? You're going to get this over. You're going to get upset. You're going to get offended. You're going to be sitting up there. And next thing you know, you're going to get to your profile and you're going to start talking. And you'll be just like, people swear they're doing something when they move on. And why when guys move on, the girls always look like sharks out of the water? Why do the girl look like this? Why do the girl look like that? That lets him know that you're still on his profile. Not only does it let him know that, it lets him know that you're still soul tied. Because if you're still soul tied, I still got to get a rope. You're moved by his behavior. See, when there's no soul tie, I'm not moved by something an ex does. If the ex goes and get another relationship, it doesn't bother me because that's not mine. That's not mine. I've detached myself. I've released myself and I've released him. But if you don't detach yourself, you can feel the slightest of movements. If you don't detach yourself from the soul tie, you can feel. I mean, sometimes it can even be spiritual. You can be in your house and you can feel the slightest of movements. That's the reason why you over there in the middle of the night typing this man's name on Facebook, Instagram, or what have you, and you looking him up because the soul tie is still present. And when you're dealing with a narcissist, the narcissist will do this here to the soul tie. I don't want to shake a wire because I don't want nothing to come unplugged. Okay, I ain't gonna mess with that. But the narcissist will do this right here to the soul tie. They kind of just shake it to see if you're still attached to it. So when you're dealing with romantic triangulation, a lot of times that's done while you're in the relationship and sometimes outside of the relationship. When you're in the relationship, many times they're going to pit you up against somebody by comparing you to that person and causing you to feel jealousy, because they believe that jealousy has the power to give them the results that they want. They believe that jealousy has the power to give them the results that they want. And so they will sit back and they'll brag about a female in front of you. They'll talk to her. They'll give her a lot of attention. Let's just say, for example, you're married and you go to church with this narcissist. And when you get in church, he's always up on some girl. And you married, come on, you know your husband's eyes. You know how he looks and what have you. You know how he look at everybody else. He look at everybody else. He'd be like, hey, how you doing? Yeah, that's nice. What? That's cool. But then when he look at her, he like, I call those romantic eyes. He like, what? You're so crazy, girl. And this is the thing about romantic triangulation, is that many times the person, it makes you look like something is wrong with you, which is the goal of it. Because many times it's underhanded. It's something that is almost like an inside joke. Like, I know what he's doing, but other people don't know it. So it can make you look like you're jealous. Like I talked about the platonic side of it, it does that on the romantic end as well. It will make you look like it's something wrong with you. And many cases when you're in a relationship with somebody like that, you will feel like something is wrong with you. You will feel like you're crazy. You will feel like maybe I'm unstable. Maybe I am insecure. But then you start thinking, I ain't never been insecure in a relationship. Why am I insecure with him? But it will make you feel like something is off. And it's not until you come out of that relationship, or maybe you come in contact with somebody who was in a relationship with them, and then you'll be sitting up there and they'll start telling you like, OMG, he did that to me. Okay. Whew. It'd be 3 years later, and you're just like, man, so I'm not crazy. Well, nothing wrong with me. I thought I was insecure. I ain't never been insecure before, but I thought it was something wrong with me. This dude made me feel like I just didn't trust him, but I've been in relationships before and I've never had trust issues. Why is it that I feel like I got trust issues with him? Most of the times when you're dealing with triangulation, again, you can have the third party can be malicious, meaning they can be aware of the triangulation, and they're flying monkeys. We'll move on to that next. They can be flying monkeys, so there are third parties in there. And flying monkeys are not always aware of the fact that they're flying monkeys, but they can be flying monkeys in the equation. Then again, they can be intentional flying monkeys, or they can be flying monkeys that have been manipulated into becoming flying monkeys, meaning they came into the equation just because the person came to them and manipulated them. So you have to be very mindful, because a lot of times with women, especially when you're dealing with romantic triangulation, a lot of women get upset with the other party, the other female involved. So a good example is, if, let's say, you have a neighbor and you're married, and your neighbor gets out and thank you, Sister Kaya, God bless you. But your neighbor gets out, and she gets out and she runs and she jogs every day. And your husband, he's like, that's what I like about Jan next door. That's what I like about her. Man, to have a woman that always exercises. And every time, and when he's talking to her, he is very skilled at getting her attention. Like, you standing right there and you're talking and you're trying to engage, but the thing is, you can't engage. Kingdom Mind, you just made me think of something. But you're trying to engage with her, but he's arresting her attention. So every time, like, she's one of those people, let's say she's cool, she's really trying to engage with you, but he keeps arresting her attention every time y'all are standing together. So she's like, oh, hey, let's say she got the towel around her. She's like, oh, how you doing? Yeah, just came back from my jog and or what have you. He's like, man, I admire that about you. And she said, thank you. And she look at you, sis. She says, how you doing, sis? You're like, I'm good. And he just keeps talking to her. But he keeps doing things to capture her attention. What he's doing is he wants you offended with her, because this is triangulation. She's being bought in as a third party. Now, unfortunately, some women fall for that. Oftentimes the third party, in this particular case, that girl is innocent. She is not trying to be a third party. She's just being used or what have you. But you do have some wives who will turn around and get really jealous hearted and begin to mishandle that particular female as if she's done something wrong. And that's exactly what the narcissist wants. The narcissist wants to pit them up against one another. Now, I had a thought. Another form or example of romantic triangulation that happens outside of a relationship. Something that happened to me when I was probably about 21. I was probably about 21 years old. And I've told this story before, but I'm sharing it to you because it's a good example. But I was 21 years old. I think I was about 21. I was 21 years old. And I was going to the club at that time. And I met a guy in the club. And this guy, we'll call him Steve. Since we had a Steve over there, we're going to call him Steve. So I met Steve at the club, which was actually against my rules when I was going to the club. I had a rule that I wouldn't date anybody at the club. And one of the reasons I didn't date guys from the club was, one, because how I used to dress when I went to the club. I knew the guys were likely going to have a perception. And then two, how I used to behave in the club. And when I say behave, I wasn't gutter bucket or crazy or nothing like that. I'm talking about when I went into the club, I went in there with the fun mentality. Like, I just want to dance. I just want to come out here, what have you. And I know that, and then I was wearing skimpy clothes. So I knew that, some of the guys in the club, that was my thing, was the guys in the club looking for a good time. I wasn't looking for no good time. I wasn't looking, I was like most women. I wanted a serious relationship. So that was one of my rules. I wouldn't date anybody in the club. Nevertheless, I started dating. I exchanged numbers with Steve. I won't even say that we officially created a relationship. I exchanged numbers with Steve, and we did go out on a couple of dates. We did go out on a couple of dates, and we were trying to establish a relationship and what have you. One of the red flags, and this is a red flag of a narcissist, is love bombing. He moved way too fast. Because we only dated. Now, I'm going to sit here and tell you, we only talked for 2 weeks. And so the story I'm going to tell you don't sound like we talked for 2 weeks. We only talked for 2 weeks. Poor Steve. But We only talked for a total of 2 weeks. Just keep that in mind. Only 2 weeks. I never kissed him. We never had sex. None of that. What happened was immediately after we met, he was one of those guys that had a little bit of money. So he would always flash his money. That was his thing. He would always flash his money, big wads of money or what have you. So Steve decides, anytime he would be like, hey, you need anything? That was his thing. He used to love to call me. He said, you need anything? I'm like, no, I'm good. And he was like, you sure? You need anything? I'll get you anything you want. And I'm like, nah, I'm good. And he took me to meet his family. One of the things that, I'm not going to go into that part, but what made me what turned me off towards Steve was one day he took me to meet his family. First and foremost, I'm in the car thinking to myself, I don't know you for you to be introducing me to your family. I was in a world, but I had enough sense to know, I'm like, you introducing me to your family a little too fast. Like that was just weird for me. So I didn't say anything, but that was just a thought that I had going on in my head. And right after we were leaving the family's house, I was in a car with him, and I remember we were coming over this hill. It was in a bad neighborhood. It was a whole lot of kids out, like teenagers in the street. They were just, and the kids were being very rude, meaning how they just gathered and they wouldn't move even though they saw a car. He started literally driving into the crowd like he about to run these kids over, and it's kind of car hitting, and I'm in the car like, dude, that right there, I was like, yeah, he got problems. So anyhow, I'm not going to talk about how the entirety of that story. Now, the reason I ended up completely breaking it off with him was because he tried to fight me inside the club. And that turned out to be a very dramatic event. Police had to be called, whole lot of crazy stuff. So it was just one of those things. So I ended things with him because I was like, yeah, he's a little bit too crazy. Well, Mr. Steve, after 2 weeks, we only dated 2 weeks. Keep that. I can't emphasize that enough. We only dated 2 weeks. We never kissed. We've sat in his car and talked. We went on dates. That's it. That's the entire. We talked on the phone. He didn't like talking on the phone too much. If we were on the phone, he'd be like, I'm gonna swing by, so we can go hang out. That was it. Keep that in mind. He had a jealous episode of seeing me dance with somebody at the club. He decided he was gonna try to fight me. It took an entire crowd of people to hold this man back. I realized, yeah, I ain't trying to go out of this earth like this. His brother's crazy. He real possessive. I don't do possessive. And so when I ended the relationship with him, he did not move on. He didn't move on. He kept calling my house. He would threaten, he would call it, he would even flirt with my sister. He would do, like, he was just being complete. Like, it was weird. 2 years later, keep in mind, I dated him for 2 weeks. 2 years later, 2 years, maybe 3. I was with my ex-husband, and we were, mind you, I was a babe in Christ. We were shacking up. Me and my ex-husband, we had moved in together. We were renting a house and what have you, moved in together. And one day, me and my ex, we were out in the yard doing some yard work. Now, I haven't heard from Steve in years, thankfully. And me and my ex-husband, we out in the yard doing yard work. I happened to look up. Lo and behold, I see Steve right down my street. Now, do I think he intentional? No, I don't think he knew that was my street. I don't think he knew that was my street, but I think he saw me. And I tried to turn my back around. I told my ex-husband, I said, dude, Steve I used to date, and I said, he crazy. I said, I don't want him to know I live here, because if he know, he will come by. And he was like, he come by here. I was like, no, he way crazier than you. Now, if he come by here, you might want to lock yourself in the house. Like, this one here is, yeah. So he acted like he didn't see. That same night, or was it the next night, my cousin was in town, and it was 1 a.m. Me and my cousin, female cousin, we in the living room talking, my ex-husband in bed. Next thing you know, there's somebody at my door. It was 1:30 in the morning. I remember that. We're like, who's ringing the doorbell? My cousin looked at me. I said, gee, I'm like, I don't know who that is. I go open the door. Rewind. I'm moving too fast. I was working at Walmart. And I was passing I was coming out of the back, passing through layaway, and one of my friends worked in layaway, and I'll call her Tammy. I said, "Hey, Tammy." She said, "Hey, Tiffany." And I was going into the bathroom. You guys probably heard me tell this story before, but I went into the bathroom, and I see this girl kind of following me into the bathroom. Okay. I'm going to the bathroom. I'm going to the stall because I got to pee. I go into the stall, and then I hear, "Your name Tiffany?" She knocking on my stall door. I was like, "Yeah." She was like, "Oh, my name is," we'll make up, what name? I see Ready Cam. Okay. "My name Ready." She's like, "My name Ready." She's like, "I'll wait till you get finished." I'm in the bathroom squatting like, the heck? Somebody follow you into the bathroom and knock on the door and talk about, "I'll wait till you get finished." So I come out the bathroom. I go up to the sink. She walks right alongside me up to the sink. I'm washing my hands. And she's like, she doesn't say anything. She just stares at me. And she was like, "I don't see it." I said, I'm washing my hands. I was like, "Yeah." She was like, "My name Ready. I'm dating Steve. You know Steve?" "Yeah. I'm his new girlfriend." I was like, "Oh, okay. It was nice to meet you." She was like, "He told me I look just like you. He always talk about you. He always be talking about you. He told me I look just like you, but I don't see it." And I was like, "Yeah." She was like, "You pretty." I said, "Thank you." So she started telling me, she said, "Why y'all break up? Because he always talking about you." And I told her, I was like, "He tried to fight me in the club or what have you." And she was like, "Oh, he wouldn't do that to me. Because my sister would do that. My family crazy. He wouldn't do that to me." I was like, "Okay, well, it was nice to meet you." Left out of there. And probably about a year or two later, this is when I'm living with my ex. My cousin is in town from Louisiana. Me and her are up in the middle of the night. She's sitting down. We're talking. I'm sweeping. My ex-husband's in the bed, knocked out. Doorbell rings or knock on the door. I don't remember. And we look at each other, me and my cousin. And I was like, "What the heck is at this door?" I go to the door. I said, "Who is it?" "Ready." I said, "Who?" "Ready." I open the door, and this is the girl, his girlfriend, standing there, and he's literally sitting in the car, in the driver's side, just looking at me. And she was like, "Oh, I'm looking for such and such." I was like, "This is the wrong address." "She don't live here." I was like, "No, ma'am, this is the wrong address." And I realized he had saw me. He saw me at that house, and then he brought this girl to my house. And I don't know if she really. I think she thought it was somebody else's house, but I don't know if she knew or she thought. But he brought her to my house, or what have you. Maybe to see if that was truly me or what have you. Triangulation. That's an example of romantic triangulation. He had that girl looking like she was 3 shades of crazy. And she might have been the nicest person in the world, but it was just the weird stuff because what he did was he kept speaking me up. He would not stop talking. And I'm like, she was like, "He keep talking." I was like, "I only dated him for 2 weeks." Like there is nothing significant that happened in our relationship that would justify him behaving that way. I can understand if it was 2 years and we were sexually active and planning our future together and all of that. I only dated him. And I would look, I only dated him 2 weeks. My friends used to joke with me. They were like, "You can imagine if you had sex with this boy." I'm like, "Man, obituary." I've probably been on an obituary somewhere because it wasn't no getting out. But that's what romantic triangulation is. Again, it can be platonic. Your friends will pit you up against each other. It can be romantic. Sometimes the person that's the third party in it, they don't realize that they're a third party in it. Other times they do realize that they're the third party. But the goal is jealousy. The goal, or I won't say the goal, I would say jealousy is the fuel. They want to use jealousy to drive you into what they want. They want jealousy to be a motivating factor behind your decisions. They want you in competition. Thank you, and honestly, I can say a lot of the experiences I've had in life, while they were tragic, and I laugh about them. I'm actually happy I had them now, because I feel like I got 1,000 stories that I can tell, and I can look back on that stuff and I laugh. I'm like, man, Lord Jesus, I understand now. I understand, but jealousy is the fuel. When you're dealing with the narcissist does not like the word no. There is no option for them. A normal, healthy person understands I have to make a sacrifice in a relationship. So if we're going out to eat, I may not be able to go to the restaurant I want to go to. I may have to go where you want me to go, because we went where I wanted to go last week. But when you're dealing with somebody who is a narcissist, or somebody who's immature, or somebody who's narcissistic, it has to be that restaurant. No, well, I've kind of put my, no, we can go ahead and go to the restaurant but you want, but I kind of had my taste buds set on some makeup ambushes. Call the restaurant ambushes. I had my taste set on some ambushes, butter smothered steak. I just had my tongue set up for that. And they'll have such a negative response in that car that you already know I either take this person to ambushes, or if we go to the restaurant I want to go to, they're going to put me on punishment. Meaning they're going to make the environment in that restaurant very toxic. Thank you, Vernell. God bless you. They're going to make my experience at the restaurant. So I may be over here eating the food, trying to have a conversation with them, and I'm trying to talk, and they're just like, this is dry. I don't even know why you like this restaurant. No, I'm talking to them, and they're just like, you say something? I'm sorry, I'm just... You're dealing with a narcissist or a narcissistic person. You're being put on punishment for not giving them their way. I can't emphasize that enough. I want to go ahead and move on to the next one. But when you're dealing with a narcissist or narcissistic person, they have to have their way. They have to have their way. So let's talk about number 2, which is flying monkey triangulation. Flying monkey triangulation. And so again, when you're dealing with the flying monkey, a lot of times, some of them are aware that they're flying monkeys, and other times they're not aware that they're flying monkeys. So basically, you guys introduced me to that term about a year ago, and I had to look it up to find out what it meant. But the flying monkey is somebody who's a third party. And for example, is somebody that the narcissist typically will use to help carry out their agenda. Now, one of the things I've learned about narcissists is that they like to move in numbers. They like to move in numbers. So they'll use terms like, everybody says you're like that. Or even such and such. Even, I was with this girl, even she didn't do that. They'll tell you about some bad girl, like this girl that did horrible things. Like she cheated on him with his daddy. Something horrible, something horrific. They'll tell you about something like that, but then they'll turn around and they'll use that example. They'll be like, even she wouldn't do that. She didn't do what you did to me. Even she knew me better than that. And that girl slept with my daddy. Or everybody knows that I'm a good person. Or you're the only person. That's triangulation. Now, in this particular triangulation, they're bringing in a whole lot of other people that are not necessarily a part. Like, these people don't necessarily know their names are being used, but they're bringing in all these other people to make you feel singled out, to make you feel like, hey, everybody's in one spot, you are on the outside. It's to get you to feel rejected, to get you to feel like, hey, you're not fitting in with us because you're not giving in to my agenda. You're not giving in to my feelings and my preferences. That's the goal of that. When you're dealing with the flying monkey, when you're dealing with, let's say, for example, a lot of times you'll see this in families and friendships. You can see it in romantic relationships as well. But a lot of times they'll bring a third party in, either directly, or sometimes, again, they can kind of talk somebody up. And they'll say, well, I talked to such and such even said this. I talked to such and such, or what have you. It immediately makes me think, I remember when I was married, my ex did something where he told me all of these things. Like, I heard all this about you from your past. I heard all of this. I heard all of that. And I'm like, that stuff isn't true. It would be seasoned with a little truth. I'm like, okay, that was true. Dang, yeah, I did do that. But no, the other stuff ain't true. And I would ask him, I was like, where are you getting this information? Who's telling you all this stuff about me? And so what he did was, he was like, I'm not going to tell you. I've sworn to secrecy. But then he would say something like, you ain't got no friends. You ain't got no friends. You think you got friends. You ain't got no friends. Or what have you. And eventually I came to find out where he was getting his information from, and it wasn't from my friends. But he was trying to pit me up against my friends. It didn't work, because I'm a person that I will ask questions. I went to my friends. I was like, hey, have you been, he been doing this and he been saying this. Have you been talking to him? And they like, girl, no, I don't even know. And I'm like, okay, I don't know. He playing games or what have you. But that was his goal, to make me feel like it was somebody else. But it was a person that was in my family that had been feeding him a lot of information. Of course, he had been adding on to that information or what have you. But that's triangulation. Triangulation is to make you feel singled out, make you feel like, hey, you're not a part of us. Is you, and then there's us. There's you, and then there's us. And so we don't like what you're doing. We don't agree with what you're doing. We see what you're doing. We see you looking. And so it causes you to feel humiliated. It causes you to feel rejected. It causes you to feel misunderstood. Right. It's a system of mind games. It's like a video game. It's a system of mind games that are designed to break you down. Because when you're dealing with the narcissist, the end goal is always the narcissist's agenda. The narcissist agenda. The narcissist has something that he wants or something that she wants. And at the end, for whatever reason, and a lot of times when I say something that they want, it's not always like, okay, if I get this, I'll win. A lot of times it's control. They love having control over other people. Sometimes they can be relatively intelligent, and they like seeing how they can kind of move. Like, they like seeing how they can move the players around them. They like seeing it. They like playing those games or what have you, because they got you over here scratching your head like, am I really crazy? Am I insecure? I did have a hard childhood. Oh my goodness. I gotta get some help. Then there's other people over there that's going through the same thing. Everybody thinks that they're crazy, but the narcissist says, if all y'all got yourselves together, we would have an amazing relationship. Everything would be great. It is evil spirits. It is evil spirits. So again, the flying monkeys, a lot of times, let's talk about that in families. Let's say you have that, the family, the grandma or the auntie who's a Jezebel in the family. So when you're dealing with narcissists, you're dealing with a Jezebel spirit. But let's say you got that one family so what they typically do is that one auntie, everybody in the family knows she can be a little bit controlling, manipulative, but a lot of times they can be very giving. They can be very giving. So that particular auntie, she let people stay in her house when they ain't got nowhere to stay. She gonna complain about you. She gonna talk about you, but she'll give you this or she'll do that or what have you. So the family relies. And so a lot of times they like to create dependencies within the family unit. They love to create dependencies within the family unit. So she to let people live with her, and everybody knows that she can be mean. She can be all these things, but yet and still, she'll give you the shirt off of her back if she has to. And so what ends up happening is you get tired of her. Let's say it's your mother. You get tired of her. You're over it. You're tired of her abusive behavior. You're tired of her talking to you any type of way. You're tired of her humiliating you. You're tired of it. You're tired of the games, the financial abuse, all of these different measures and lines of control. All these puppet strings that she has on you. You just begin to cut them off because you realize, hey, I'm tired of this. So you begin to cut those strings off of yourself, and you lose yourself from her control. You lose yourself from being a part of her thing. And you decide, hey, in order for me to heal, in order for me to develop, I can't have a relationship with her like that. I'll probably go around her once every month, every 2 months or something like that. But I'm just going to kind of lose myself, or I need a break from her. I need to take and I'll come back around her whenever I feel like I am, when I feel like I'm healed enough. But right now, I kind of feel like I need to get away from her and heal. So you completely cut ties with her. So you move on with your life. You go over here or what have you. In order to regain control over you, she will use flying monkeys. And so flying monkeys will be either she'll go to them in a way where she's like, I don't know, I've done everything for that girl, but I'm just tired. I'm tired. I'm just, and so you'll have these people coming over. They'll be like, you need to stop acting like that. That's the only mama you got. Your mama sitting up here. Yeah, I mean, she ain't perfect, but you know what? She didn't, and she took care of you when your daddy, when he walked out of your life and all that. And so those are what we call flying monkeys. You will have different types of flying monkeys. She will have manipulated them, or in some cases, they know she's malicious. But a lot of times they just don't really care. They don't think it's that big of a deal. Because some people, when they're coming from a relationship or coming from a family like that, they honestly don't feel like it's that big of a deal. They think, they'll say something like, well, I know she's controlling, but it's not that big of a deal. One thing that's just how she is. That's what people typically say when they're dealing with the narcissist Jezebel spirit. They'll say, well, that's just how she is. That's just how she is. And that's not something that's healthy. And so basically what they're telling you is you need to make adjustments to who you are, because she's not making any adjustments. We expect you to change. And so flying monkey triangulation is when they start using people, they start pitting people up against you. They start using people to hurt, harass, intimidate, or shame you. And then the last one is family of origin triangulation. The last one is family of origin triangulation. And this one is more of, think of the mother-in-law. So this one's going to require me to draw it out too. This is going to require me to draw it out too. I saw somebody do something similar to this, and I was like, yeah, that's all right. And this is going to be an upside down pyramid. All right. In a normal, healthy family dynamic, the way that God created it, this is what it's supposed to look like. It's going to look like a pyramid, but it's upside down. You have, thank you, Teddy, God bless you. You have the husband, you have the wife, and you have the child, right? Forgive me, my pyramid looks whack. I know it's been through some stuff. But you have the husband, you have the wife, you have the child. However, whenever you start dealing with the narcissist, let's say, for example, in an unhealthy relationship, in an ungodly relationship, let's say the wife has a Jezebel spirit, then what you're going to see is that the pyramid is going to kind of look like this. The pyramid is going to kind of look like this. Whereas, or no, it's going to look more like this. Give me a second. I can use the same piece of paper. Let me stop. All right. All right. This is an unhealthy family dynamic. Let me redraw that because that's line going through the paper. All right. Maybe I can draw a prettier pyramid for y'all. All right. This is an unhealthy family dynamic. This is an unhealthy family dynamic. I'm going to tell you, this is not the only example I'm going to show, but this is one of them. So what the wife has done is she's brought her child up and pretty much almost in a sense married her child. Now, typically, to my brothers, you got to be careful. There are some people out here, men and women, who have narcissistic tendencies. They are just one offense away from being a Jezebel. Like they're just one offense away. And so in some cases, the enemy activates that spirit in a woman through an event that her husband does. So her husband goes out and, in the beginning of the relationship, she was relatively decent. She was a good woman, for the most part, maybe by worldly standards. But the husband goes out and has an affair. From that point on, he is brought under her control because, he does everything. I posted the link under the last comment that you made, sister. You can email it to me. But he sits back and let's say he had an affair, and he's like, what can I do? What can I do to make it up? Now, first and foremost, he's not the victim in this, and the wife is the victim in this. But now what she does is she turns the tables and she turns him into the victim, and so what have you. So he can never really get his place back. So she kind of moves her child or her children up here, and she places him down here using guilt, shame, condemnation, or what have you. She uses those things or what have you. So in this particular dynamic, what you're going to notice is that she's going to be very possessive of this particular child. She's going to give the child everything. And I'm going to deal with, don't let me forget, I want to deal with the golden child as well, because that's a part of this system. But she's going to, you become narcissistic from being with a narcissist. Most people who've been with a narcissist will be narcissistic when they come out of that relationship. I've experienced that. I've seen, I've counseled people like that, and sometimes you're kind of trying to question whether or not that's the narcissist. When you said that your ex was a narcissist, but you exhibiting, but they've been with that person for so long that they picked up those ways, and it's a defense mechanism. So you have the wife and a child. So the wife pretty much marries the child, counseling out the husband. He becomes like secondary in the household. So the child takes a primary role, the wife takes a primary role, and they place the husband down. She places the husband down here, even though in this pyramid, she still really has herself at the top. See if I can bring that in. She's going to still have herself at the top, but she's placed herself. And so typically, this is somebody that's going to probably have the Jezebel spirit, aka narcissist. And what's going to happen in this particular dynamic is, let's say the child grows up. He's the son. And son gets a wife. What do you think is going to happen to the wife? The mother has made her son into her husband. She put her husband down here. She has married her son. In a sense, she's made her son into her husband. She's been she's been buying him clothes. This is the nightmare mother-in-law that many of us fear, that we dread, that we like, Lord, please don't let that, Lord Jesus, don't let me marry somebody like that. When the son attempts to create his own pyramid, when he attempts to create his own relationship, then let's say here, try not to okay, we'll just start scratching folks off. All right, we'll do it this way. So we'll say this is the son, and he get his wife, and he puts his wife here, and he puts his mother down here. But the mother she sees the female, because of the role that she's given her son in her life, because of the role and the expectation, she sees the other female like the other woman. She sees her daughter-in-law like the other woman. And so even though she has her husband, she's put him down and castrated him so much, she's not interested in her husband. She's interested in her son. She's interested in her son. And so what she will do is she will create this thing, whereas she will constantly keep trying to spin the pyramid in order to change the pyramid and bring herself back to the top of the pyramid, and then to basically bring her son into a place with her, and to eliminate the wife, or to get the wife at the bottom of the pyramid. So I will do it this way. Ah, sorry for all this scratching, guys. So you have the mother and the son, and she will bring her daughter-in-law here. She will bring her daughter-in-law to the bottom of the pyramid. But again, she's at the top of her own pyramid. She's at the top. That's the way it is. But she will bring her daughter-in-law to the bottom of the pyramid. But this is something that the son has to put boundaries up. He has to stop it. And there have been a large, y'all got to understand, in the United States of America, the principality that's over this country is the Jezebel spirit. That's the principality over this country. Every time we have a presidential election, I always laugh and I always joke. I'm like, okay, it looks like we got to choose between Jezebel and Leviathan. Which demon do you want? Jezebel and Leviathan. Why? Because the believers, the prophets, the prophetic people are off post. The prophets, the prophetic people, a lot of them are off post. They're not in position to run for president, They're not in position. They're off post, or they're too busy trying to marry or come into the world, acclimate with the world. Now, I do want to make sure that I deal with the dynamic when it comes to the mother, the narcissistic mother, and the golden child, or what have you, because many of you have experienced that. These are all forms of triangulation. But again, over the United States of America, the Jezebel spirit is, and so this is something that's commonplace here. This is something that's commonplace. You can see the narcissism, like when we experienced the pandemic, no matter what happened, you see the narcissism of America. Like we just had this thing here in Georgia where there was some type of fear, and what people do, the narcissism of people made them go to the gas station, fill their cars up, bring buckets, not considered. They cause a gas shortage. Because that's what narcissism does. It causes an imbalance. They cause a gas shortage. Now, when the paper towels and tissue, I can say, I can't even say I'm guilty because I always buy in bulk. I've been buying in bulk since before the pandemic, which is the reason why I have a Sam's Club membership. I have a Sam's Club membership because I don't like going to the store. So when I do go to the store, I'm typically going to buy in bulk. So I ain't got to go back to the store for another month or so. That's how I do. But during the pandemic, you had people coming out that were doing more than they were actually out here fighting over stuff because everybody has every man for himself. This is what sin does to a nation. See, one of the things that God wants us to be is united. But what sin does is it makes you sin sick. It makes you selfish. It makes you think about yourself. And you all you think about is what you feel, what you want, what you need. And you make everybody else secondary, which causes other people to develop a survivor's mindset. So when you have a bunch of people who develop a survivor's mindset, then there's going to be a lot of fighting. Everybody's trying to survive or what have you. The golden child in many cases will become the narcissist. So I want to deal with that real quick. The golden child will become the narcissist. So again, these are all different forms of narcissistic triangulation. But there's the one whereas some mothers, a lot of mothers, and not just mothers, fathers, will have children. And for example, and some of you are victims of this, whereas let's say it was your mother. Your mother sat there and she had, maybe it was your sister, maybe it was your brother. She turned that particular sibling into the golden child. So the golden child is the one that can do no wrong. That's the one that gets all of the attention of the parent. That's the one that gets all the new clothes, all the nice stuff. They get to see a side of your parent that you have never seen. They get to see a side of the parent. But the scapegoat child is the child that gets the bad. This is the one that can't do anything right. This is the one that doesn't necessarily get anything. They don't get all the nice stuff. They don't get all the nice compliments. They get a different encounter with the parent. So the golden child has this encounter, whereas the parent is always proud of them. Always, you did great in school, and the child got a D. Well, you did your best. You hear me? You did your best. And I want you to know that mommy's proud of you. But you come running up with an A, you ain't nothing but a little show off. You think you smart. Get in your room. Go in your room. What they do, if you have that family dynamic, it will create such a brokenness between you and the sibling. So the scapegoat and the golden child rarely have a close relationship. The scapegoat and the golden child rarely have a close relationship because they've had two different experiences, two different encounters under the same roof. And it could be four children in the house, but they will have that one golden child, that one child that gets all of their attention, gets all of their money, that gets all of their favor, gets all of their affirmation, and then everybody else is starved of it. And so the one that gets it all, that child is first and foremost, they're all victims, including the golden child. But the golden child typically does not look like a victim because they're oftentimes spoiled and they become very snotty and snobbish and self-centered, because this is the one that's going to pick up the inheritance of that spirit. This is the one that spirit has targeted to say, you're going to come after me. You're going to be, and so it's typically the weaker of the children. This is the one that's more, it's easier to influence that particular child. So when you're dealing with the golden child, you're dealing with the mother, for example, will sit up there and she gives the golden child new clothes, new shoes, and the golden child is, even though they start looking they look like a villain and they actually begin to behave like villains, they're also victims as well. So they are targeted by that parent to become the inheritor of that parent's grace, if you may. They're the one that's supposed to carry out their parent's personality. So the parent will do all of these things, and then the parent will make the golden child feel as if, hey, don't tell your brother, don't tell your sister, I bought this for you. Don't tell, because they're real jealous of you. They're real jealous of you. And it's like, either there is no jealousy or you're creating that jealousy. Remember, in that triangle, jealousy is the fuel. They like to create relationships. Remember, we talked about the narcissist. They like to create divisions put this space between everybody that they're dealing with. And so in this particular equation, the golden child is getting all of the attention, the affirmation. They're getting everything, whereas the other children are kind of left out on the outside. Consequently, it creates a comparison and a competition within that home. So the other children who are being starved of affection, in some cases, can become competitive towards the golden child, which puts them in a defensive mode. I'm just tired. They just jealous of me, and I'm tired of them. Oh, hey, it creates this competition. The golden child typically is going to be very entitled. They feel like the earth, the moon, the stars, and everything else centers around them because that's been their reality. And this is the reason why I say you can't villainize them in many cases, because that has been their reality. They don't know victimhood like victimhood. They don't know this world that you're talking about. They don't know what it feels like to be in a spot where they don't get the mother's attention or the father. They don't know what that feels like, and they don't realize that they're being used to pick, they're being used in this equation, or what have you. And so even in those type of relationships, the pyramid sometimes will shift. So if they get mad at the golden child, sometimes they will temporarily give you the golden child spot. And that's such a great feeling if you've never had it. If they never gave you attention, they never gave you that much love or affirmation, all of a sudden they're mad at the golden child. They say, one thing, and they start talking about that child. They say, your sister, she out here, she does. I'm about to stop. I done did everything for this girl. I done bought her a car. I paid her rent. I've done all of this stuff. But you know what? I ain't doing nothing else for her. But one thing I like about you see the shifting in that. One thing I like about you. So now it's like, okay, you feel like mommy is about to take the golden child off of her throne or off of his throne and put them in their place where they belong because they're snotty and spoiled. Put them in their place, and she's about to put me up on a pedestal. And so what they'll do is they'll praise you for a minute. They'll praise you for a week. They'll praise you for a day. They'll praise you for an hour. They'll praise you for a week. They'll praise you, but it's always a small window of time. It's always a small window of time. And they'll be mad at the golden child, take stuff from the golden child, may even go out and buy stuff for you. You're just like, you don't never buy me nothing. Wow, you bought me a pair of shoes, and these are some nice shoes. You went and bought me a pair of $200 shoes. Thank you. And so you become really happy, even to the point where you take your mother's side in that fight. Even though when she tell you the story, you realize, yeah, Mom, you're a little bit wrong. But because you've never been in that position before, you're like, I don't want to ruin this. Like I'm 24 years old. Y'all know I ain't 24, but I'm just saying this is just an example. I'm 24 years old. I've never been in this position before. I've never had this time where mama's giving me this attention. Mommy I've never had this happen to me before. So even though you know she wrong, you don't tell her that she wrong because you're just enjoying the attention. You're enjoying the moment. But it's just a matter of time before you'll notice that, okay, mommy didn't call me like she normally does. And what happened? She's like, yeah, your sister's over here. I talked to her. So what I'm about to, yeah, but and so slowly but surely she will put the golden child back on the pedestal and put you back here. And many times to get you back here, to justify getting you back here, she has to find some type of offense. She has to find some type of issue, that something that you said, something that you did. I thought you said that you were going to bring the kids by today. Mom, sorry, I fell asleep. See, that's okay. I sat up here and I waited. Mom, I work 2 jobs. I'm tired. I really didn't. It's not intentional. It wasn't malicious. I literally came home from work and I fell asleep. I told them to wake me up. They didn't wake me up. They were playing a video game. I'm sorry, Mom. No, that's all right. And they hang up the phone. They're not that upset about you not bringing the kids over. Matter of fact, they honestly didn't want the kids to come over. That was just them putting you back in your spot at the bottom of the pyramid. Because now you're smelling yourself, you're feeling yourself, because you got a chance to take your sister or your brother's spot temporarily. So now this is just them putting you back in your spot and justifying you putting you down there. Yeah, and unfortunately, the golden child and the scapegoat child typically have 2 different realities. They come from 2 different worlds. The golden child's reality is, hey, the golden child's reality is, I've always had the attention of my mother. Let's just say if it's a mother. I've always had the attention of my mother. I've always had this. I've always had that. And my siblings have always been against me. That's the golden child's reality. That's how they see the world. I've always had the attention of my mother. I've always had what I wanted. If I wanted some new shoes, my mama bought it for me. And that's their reality. But the scapegoat has a completely different world, a completely different reality. That's the reason why. Now, when you're dealing with the scapegoat, they can sit back and say, mommy was a narcissist, or mommy was narcissistic, or mommy was this. And the golden child will say, you lie. My mama was nothing like that. Mama was nothing like that. Because they've had 2 different realities. They didn't come from the same world. They didn't, even though they shared the same mother, they did not have the same experience with their mother. They did not have the same experience with that mother. And then their experience with you has been negative because you were always pitted up against them. You were always pitted up against them because your mother strategically made sure that she made them feel like, oh, they just jealous of you. And what she did was she would buy all these nice things. Y'all see my CD, y'all better get it. But she would buy all these nice things for the golden child. Here you go. And she would do stuff in front of the other kids to provoke them to jealousy. She would do all of this stuff for them in front of the other kids to provoke them to jealousy. And so typically there is a big division. Even when golden child and scapegoat try to have a relationship, there's typically a big division between the 2. It immediately makes me think of people in the Bible, and just a thought comes in about Joseph. Whereas the Bible said that his father, Jacob, favored him because he was the child of his youth. And he gave, and of course we know that Jacob probably, I don't think he was a narcissist or what have you. I don't think he was narcissistic. Pretty sure that he wasn't. I think it was something that he did that he just really didn't put too much thought into, because it causes a division within the family, because that was a child of his youth. And so he's doing all of this stuff because this is the little bitty baby. And you see Joseph acting like a little snotty-nosed kid in the Bible. He's snitching on his brothers all the time. His daddy buys him his coat, and he goes to his brothers, I had a dream that y'all were worshiping me. And they developed a hatred in their hearts. Now, from his perspective, He's the victim. From their perspective, they're the victim. Everybody's perspective, they were the victim. Now, in Joseph's case, Joseph was just immature. He just so happened to be the receptor of favor. And with that favor, anytime there's favor, there's going to be jealousy. Yeah, you're going to get it. I'm sorry. Anytime you get favor from any direction, anybody else who's coveting that favor of that person is going to either experience jealousy towards you, or they're going to experience something negative, especially if you are undeserving of that favor. If favor is unwarranted, a lot of times it creates a split or a shift. If you only got that favor because you're the little brother, but you a snotty-nosed brat that whine about everything and you don't do nothing right, then the other kids are looking like, man, we work our tails off. We do all of this stuff. And here you is coming up over here, and you're sniffing your butt. And you getting all that attention. And so a lot of times that can create a rift between those two siblings. That can create a rift between those siblings, because the spoiled one is walking around just getting favor for no reason. But the other ones are like, hey, we out here, we working in the field, we painted the whole house, we done did all of this stuff. And yet, thank you, Sister Kristen. And yet, you get favor. You just wake up in the morning and you whining in the morning. You can't even go make yourself some cereal. We go up and make breakfast for the entire family, and you laid up in the bed. I'm hungry. I'm hungry. It creates a rift in the family. That's what the triangulation is designed to do. It's designed to create separation. God called us as believers to walk together. And, even within our families, he wants us to be unified. But triangulation always causes a divide. It always causes a rift, because what it does is it causes this imbalance. It causes the pyramid to kind of flip and things to go out of order. I know we can talk about favor all day long. We can talk about how, sometimes people can get favor, and that can provoke you. And I can just give you a little bit of advice on that. Even with me, I can say when I was growing up, my sister was her favorite. That was her golden child. And my mother was not a narcissist. I want to say that, but I think she was just, immature. She was decent with her own rights or what have you. But that was her golden child. And one of the things that I did to combat that feeling, because I got tired of feeling the hurt. I got tired of feeling the rejection. One of the things, and this is something I think that this is how God wired me. And I've said this before, I just literally stopped wanting. So that's how I typically respond to life. So for example, let's say if I'm married to a man and I want him and I love him and I want us to be together, if he cheats on me, if he does wrong, then I'm just going to rewire myself to not want his affection anymore. I'll just kind of start going through a process of rewiring and changing my mind about the relationship, especially if this is something that, this is a pattern or what have you. I would just change my mind about the relationship, because me wanting him is hurting. So I just changed my mind about the relationship. How do I change my mind? And I'm hoping I can help you guys with this. I just started telling myself the truth about this person. Like the fantasy that I had, or the plans that I've had with that person, like for us to have a house and for us to have a car and for this to be a healthy relationship, I just take that out. And I just start telling myself, okay, no, he gonna do to his dad. He's trying to do to me what his daddy does to his mama. So that's what our future looks like. Our future looks like his daddy and his mama's relationship. And what that does is it causes me to go into an ill mode. I don't want that. And I constantly rehearse that in my mind until I no longer want it. Honestly, the Bible says that, the truth shall set you free. I can't say the Bible says that, but we do know that God, Jesus is the truth, and he sets us free. That's one of the things that I've learned. I'll post up the information for the CD. You can get it here. I'll post up the link, guys. If you want to order the CD, or if you've already submitted the order, you can do it here, but you have the Cash App. And then fill out that form so I can have your address. I'll put my Cash App here. So if you want the CD or the Grown Girl Coloring Book, I've ordered some more copies. I have some that's going to go out on Friday. I don't have that many, so some of you that have placed orders, I have to wait till next week. Okay, so going back into the message, when you're dealing with triangulation, like I said, for me personally, and this is just me ministering to you, one of the ways that God wired me, he had to wire me that way for me to survive. So sometimes God will wire you in a unique way according to your calling, but also that wiring helps you to survive some of the traumatic events that you go through. And God knew, he's Alpha and Omega, the beginning and the end. He already knew the end of Tiffany, or what I was going to go through even before I went through it. And so he wired me in a way where, as for example, let's just say I want a house. I really want that house. I'm passionate about the house. I put in effort and time and all of that for that house. If something happens where I can't get that house, now don't get me wrong, because if it's faith, if I feel like I just need to have faith, I ain't letting it go. But if it's a situation where as will is involved, let's say the owner of the house, they're kind of going between opinions. They're just like, I don't know if I want to sell it to you. I don't want to sell it to her. Kind of, but she keeps telling me that you could be, I don't know. I'm just going to not want the house anymore. That's just how I do. I'm not going to want the house anymore, because I'm just going to be like, well, because what it's doing is it's putting me in a spot. It's putting me in a space where I'm feeling some type of way. I don't like comparison and competition. So if you deal with jealousy, if that's a stronghold in your life, if you deal with competition and comparison, you've probably been triangulated in your life. Either that or you were the golden child. Either way, you were put into a triangle and you were made to fight over something. And the thing about a parent's affection is this, for example, when it comes to God, I don't have to compete with another believer for God's love, his attention, his affirmation, because he is inexhaustible. So at the end of the day, God can love you and he can love everybody in this world, and he still has some left for me. And even when he gives me mine, he still is not out of it. He's still going to have just as much as he had whenever all of us went, so it's inexhaustible. It's also true for the love of a mother, the love of a father. If they healed, they have enough love, they can love. But some people, their capacity to love people is very small because of their limited mobility spiritually. So a lot of times when, like we talked about that friend of mine earlier, she had an inability to have multiple close friends. She felt like if I have one close friend, I have to do something to sabotage my relationship with the other close friend. I got to end that, and so that I can kind of put this person up or what have you. Then when this person, does me wrong, then I'm going to go back. What have you? What if you did not have to compete with a person, but with drugs? Yeah, and it's the same thing. You just pray for the person. But one thing, you always have to let go of what's hurting you. And I think we understand that in the natural. So if I go up there and I touch a stove and it's hot, I automatically know to go, whoo, take my hands off of it. But in the spirit, when it comes to us as believers, sometimes we don't understand that. So we'll hold on and we'll let something burn us. Thank you, Tishiamo. God bless you. We'll let something burn us and we'll keep holding on. And we'll keep holding on. And even though that thing is eating away at us like a cancer, we'll keep holding on because we have it in our mind that we see the potential. We have it in our mind that, hey, we could have a really good relationship if you just stop acting like that. But the reality of it is that the person has made a decision, a conscious decision. Even though they may not necessarily be sober-minded, they made a decision. And so even if it's drugs, one of the things that you have to do is, if it hurts, let go. If it hurts, let go. Now, don't get me wrong. I think this is important to note, because sometimes you can come from a toxic background and holding on to healthy relationships can hurt, only not because of what the healthy people are doing, but because of your perception. So for example, many of us have come from backgrounds of rejection. And so a lot of times we can have a misunderstanding. We can be very we can be bragging about how fast we cut people off. And a lot of times that used to be me, I cut everybody off. I cut them off. But then I had to realize that was rejection manifesting itself in me. So what I was doing is I was rejecting people before they can finish rejecting me. If I had any type of perception that you were rejecting me or that you were putting me aside or what have you, I would go straight into full-fledged, okay, I'm going to get rid of you. Okay, sounds good. But that would be my first thing. I want to get rid of you because you're hurting me. But it wasn't that you were hurting me. It was just I was still hurting from an event that happened before you came into my life. And so that event got me to the point where this is what happened. You see women do this with men. Not again. Not again. Here we go again. I ain't about to deal with this. I ain't about to deal with this. I'm not about to come into this relationship and you're doing it. Not again. But one of the things you have to be cognizant of, especially if you come from a traumatic background, is you have to be more cognizant of your behavior than you are of other people's behaviors. You have to be more cognizant of your behavior. Like for me, I look at some of the ways that I behave or some of the ways that I think, and I question myself. I interrogate myself. If I'm dealing with offense, if I'm dealing with hurt, a lot of times I'm going to take myself through a process of asking myself, why do I feel this way? Is the person really wrong? Or is it this? Is it that? I literally will talk it out. I'm not ashamed to say that. I will talk it out in my house. I'll be walking around my house because for me, for example, like let's say if a friend offends me, I'll talk it out. For me, I won't call and talk to another person about it. I'll walk around my house and be like, that girl think I'm crazy. That girl, what have you. But when I talk it out, when I'm thinking about it, sometimes I come to the conclusion that I'm wrong. Many times I come to the conclusion that I'm wrong, or I can come to the conclusion that we're both wrong. But then in that, what I'm doing is I'm trying to make sure that I don't give blame or I don't blame shift, because I don't ever want to be guilty of giving somebody a burden that somebody else gave me in my past. I never want to be that woman that gets married and punish the man that's in my life that genuinely loves me for what Tyrone them did back there. That's the reason why you have to be completely and totally honest with yourself, and you have to be responsible enough to get therapy. Honestly, if you ever want to be a blessing to anybody, it's very selfish for you to come out of a toxic background and not try to do anything to enhance your mental health. Because basically you're saying that the next person just got to deal with it. Because I'm a good person underneath it all, but they just got to deal with my attitude. No. One of the things that you have to do, you have to make it a point to say, I don't want to punish the people that come into my life. Now, you will hear me when I say this. You're going to do it by default. While you're going through your healing process, you're going to do it by default. You will do things that you shouldn't do. You will say things that you shouldn't say, but you got to be honest with yourself. You got to be apologetic. You got to be prayerful. You got to be like, okay, yeah, you still look crazy. You still 3 shades of crazy. You're going to have to work that out before you run out there and try to get into a relationship with somebody. That's one of the big issues that we have in our society, is that everybody wants to be in a relationship, but everybody is running toward a relationship. Nobody's running toward a therapist. Everybody is running toward a relationship, but you don't see that many people that are running toward a therapist and say, excuse me, I was jacked up. And I don't want to come into somebody's life and be a burden to that person. I don't want to come into somebody's life and hurt that person. The Bible says I'm supposed to be a helpmeet, not a burden. So I don't want to come into that person's life and, like for me, saying, well, you already know I've already told you about my past. I've told you about my relationship with my parents. I've told you about my exes. I've told you about all of these bad things that happened to me. Because when people do that, they're really just trying to justify mishandling you. That's all they're doing. They're just justifying mishandling you. At the end of the day, I need to be able to look over my past and say, man, I've done some crazy stuff. I've been through some crazy stuff. But you know what? I forgive those people. And I should be able to laugh about it, not be triggered by it. Right now in the United States, we got this word trigger. Y'all, we are becoming a very sensitive nation. We have become a very, very sensitive nation. Like That hurts my feelings. Whew. I don't want to say I'm scared, because I don't know if that's necessarily the right word to use, but I am concerned about this nation. We're going to call women birthing persons because it's not fair for a man. Negro, you don't have a womb. That triggers me. That hurts. We are creating a generation of weak people. And weak people get hurt, and it always relinquish their authority to somebody who's more broken than them. That's the nature of being weak. Who's going to have more authority? Whoever they give the authority to. Jezebel. Jezebel is training this nation. She's training it. That demon is training this nation. I hate to say she because the demons don't have genders. But that spirit is training this nation. It's teaching this nation. So we talked about all the different forms of triangulation. You have to identify which one that you've been on. But let me tell you real quick how you get over that. You got to get over it. Because at the end of the day, many of us understand this. You were hurt to hurt people. Satan put a lot of pain on you so that you could become the very thing that hurt you. Like I said in the beginning, I said, I've had friends and I got a chance to see the patterns. And I have friends, but I'm talking about some of the foreign friends I've had. I've got a chance to see patterns of behavior that are commonplace in women in the United States, especially victim mentality. And I've had to have conversations, and I realized that's the reason why we're like this, because when you get around people, you see a pattern. You notice that there's nothing new underneath the sun. Like, people are going in these circles. But they're going in circles, especially Christians. We're going in circles speaking in tongues. And we think because we're law-minded, we're religious, we're even witchcraft-minded, to the point where we think that the tongues are going to work, instead of understanding that faith without works is dead. So we go in systems and cycles doing the same crap, thinking. And right now, a lot of people think, for example, if I get your affirmation, if I get your attention, if I get your approval, I'll be okay. I've had to wring the neck of that devil in my life and say, I don't ever want to need somebody's attention or affirmation. I don't ever want to be in that spot. And I've prayed, I've said, God, I don't want that. I only want to have my eyes on you. Keep your heel. And this is where we talk about how to break that pyramid. How do you break this pyramid? This is okay, how do we break this? How do we break this? How do we break this? Look to the hills, from whence cometh your help coming from the Lord. It doesn't matter who's on the top of this pyramid. Look beyond them. You gotta want God more. This is how you bring Jezebel to her knees. You guys get my book Jezebel, and it'll bless your life. This is how you bring Jezebel to her knees, or that demon to his knees. Is, let's say if this is the narcissistic mother. When it comes to the narcissistic mother, one of the things that you have to do is you have to create boundaries. Boundaries are scary because they ruin and destroy relationships, but these are relationships that are unhealthy in the first place. A lot of times we don't want to put boundaries in place because we know what boundaries are going to do. If you got a toxic background, everybody around you is toxic because the nature of your life, or the way your life has been set up, is your mother was toxic, and so she surrounded you with toxic people. So your whole life has been nothing but toxic. You're familiar with toxic people, so you surrounded yourself with toxic people. The way that you have to do is, when you start creating boundaries, understand that that's going to completely eradicate your world, because that's all you're surrounded by. And this is what we're afraid of. once you put those boundaries in place, hey, yeah, don't call me at that hour, sis. Hey, don't do that. Yes, sis, that's good. I appreciate you. Once you put those, then everybody's going to get out. They're going to start leaving your life. Now, not before giving you a label, because this is what people do. When you come from people's small minds, small worlds, they have small labels. They have a limited use of labels. So, for example, they'll say, you're mean. And I remember when it came to even my family, when I started posting them labels, I started posting up labels before I got saved. And they didn't know what to call those labels. They didn't know how to identify those labels because it's something they never seen before. So they would say, you're mean, or my favorite, you're controlling. And that was the one that got me because I was like, I've never, and I'm thinking about dominant control. You know, I was like, I've never done that. Like, they've never seen me get emotional over anything. What are they talking about? And so I went to them, and I remember this is when I had got married, and my family was telling my ex, they were like, oh, yeah, she's controlling. And I was like, still trying to figure it out, like, when? I've literally never been controlling over the course of my life. So, and he was like, yeah, she is. I got all these people around me. You would think that's confirmation. That would make me say, wait. But I'm like, I'm thinking of it because I'm like, I don't like controlling people. So I was like, okay, let me confront. So I went to all of them right in that one spot. I said, give me an example of times I try to control you. Like, seriously. Because if I am, I promise I'll change. I'll do whatever I got to do. Give me an example. Nobody had an example except when we tell you to do something, you don't do it. Or you buck up against it or something like that. I said, that sounds like you're trying to control me. So basically, your inability to control me makes you say that I'm controlling. And that was my ex. He was like, yeah, when I tell you, for example, I told you I wanted to move to Africa. You say you don't want to move to Africa. That's not me being controlling. That's me having a choice. I told you if you want to move to Africa, I can't stop you. But I'm telling you, I don't want to go to Africa. Not right. I don't want to live there. I don't want to live there. Now, for those of you who are from Africa, please don't take offense to that, because it wasn't a case where I was not wanting to live in the country or on the continent. It was just, his family. I just didn't. I just saw me being alienated from my family and being pulled into a culture that, I wasn't in agreement with. It was a cultural thing. So I was like, no. So I was like, at the end of the day, I just said, I don't. And so I came to realize in that moment that they were limited in their labels, because God ministered to me in that moment. Just say, ask him. Because that's one of the things. If you tell me something about me, I'm going to ask you a question like, give me an example. Give me an example. Because I'm genuinely, like, for me, I never want to be that bad person. And so I'm like, give me an example. Give me an example of that. I mean, give me an example. Well, I remember that time where I called you and I told you that, I wanted to come over to your house and you said no. Was I nasty? No. What did I say? You just said no. So because I'm utilizing my ability to make a decision, that makes me mean. And I had to come to the reality that actually was not normal in my family. That wasn't normal. I was doing something that they wasn't used to. They wasn't accustomed to. And so for that very reason, when there's a limited use of labels, people are going to find whatever labels they can find and say, okay, this label belongs to you. And what you have to do is question the label and say, okay, give me an example. Then you have to give them the right definition. No, it sounds to me, you're saying controlling. That's not controlling. That's me making a decision. I said, if you said, I want to come over to your house, and I said, no, I'm just not in the mood right now. And you said, girl, come on now. You don't never want, I get it. I'm saying, but I'm just not in the mood for company right now. I'm not being controlling in that moment. I'm just really exercising my right to make a decision. In that moment, we got to be in agreement. You want to come over? I got to be in agreement that I want you to come over. If we're not in agreement, then what's the point of me saying yes? We talked about voice recovery. And I've said this to you guys. There is no way. It's not possible for you to recover your voice without you first establishing boundaries. There's no way for you to recover your voice without you first establishing boundaries. And again, when you begin to establish boundaries, If your world is just full of toxic people, bound people hate boundaries. What's going to happen is many of the people in your world are going to leave and you will be alone. And when you're alone, because you have so many different people, it almost seems like confirmation. You have so many different people who are falling away from you. You do look and feel like the bad person. You're shifting gears. You're moving from one world to the next. When you get into the next world, when I came into the next world, when I came around people who had an understanding, I've never been accused of being controlling. None of my friends have accused me of being controlling. Nobody accuses me of that. People who respect your ability to make a decision will not say that. They'll call and say, hey, let's go on a cruise. I say, girl, I got too much work to do. Girl, you don't never want to go nowhere. I know. I'm telling you, I'm working on it. Whatever. And we'll laugh about it. And that's it. We'll laugh about it. They'll be like, well, I'm just going to come drag you out the house or what have you. We'll laugh about it. But when you're dealing with somebody who does not like the word no, because when you're dealing with narcissists, they hate the word no. They take offense to that word. And they see that word as controlling. They'll say, you don't never want to go nowhere. I know, but I'm working on it. Nah, I ain't going to ask you to go nowhere else. I'm tired of it. You don't just, it's because a narcissistic agenda is give me what I want. That's the end game. When you're dealing with a narcissist, it's all about what they want. If they want cold water and all you got is room temperature water, they will put you on punishment. You're going to go through hell until you figure out how to get them some cold water. You're like, well, listen, I tell you, I got some ice in there. Yeah, but it came out of your ice machine and it came out of your hydrant. I don't drink hydrant water. Okay, sis, what do you want me to do? Because if I put it in the refrigerator, it's going to take several hours for it to cool. If I put it in the freezer, it's going to take a couple of hours for it to get cold. And you want water right now. So what do you want? I'm just saying. What they want you to do is to get up and say, I'll run to the store and I'll go buy you a cold water. And then right then they'll be like, oh, you ain't got to. Actually, I do. Either that or you're going to punish me. So the way to get past this triangle, I'm getting ready to close on y'all. Get ready to let y'all go. Is look to the hills from whence cometh your help. Your help comes from the Lord. I told you guys one of my coping mechanisms. My coping mechanism was, and still is to this day, is if there's something that I want and it hurts, I let it go. Because if I touch a stove and it burns me, I have a natural response to say, oh. If there's something that I want and it hurts, I let it go. Again, I have to make it a point to reiterate this, because sometimes you will grab a hold of something and it will hurt, but it's not hurting you. It's psychological. And what I'm talking about is situations where you may feel rejected, but it's not necessarily rejection. It's just a perception. It's you perceiving that you're being rejected, and that's not necessarily healthy. That's not the other person. That's coming from you. Or sometimes maybe you want a relationship. I'll say this, for example. One of the things that happened to me, like when I got into my 40s, one of the things, the shift of my thinking that took place is I stopped calling everybody my friend. Like I stopped using that term so loosely. And I started, like, hey, listen, and I don't let people, I don't let somebody come up on me and then love bomb me into a friendship. I like to take my time and get to know people, because I'm going to get to know them anyhow. So I let the relationship define itself rather than us trying to define a relationship, because over the course of my life, I've had many cases where I don't think I've ever labeled a friendship. I don't think I've ever said, you're my friend or you're my best friend. I think I probably have said friend or, that's my friend or what have you. But I've heard best friend. And this is something that's common with a lot of women is they'll say, come on, bestie. And that's actually becoming commonplace now. Bestie, 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 bestie. And when you put the wrong label on something, you get offense is inevitable. I've learned to allow relationships to define themselves because I've learned that over the course of time. I've learned to not think with a rushed mindset, like, what is this? What is this? I want to know. But rather think with a mindset, well, we'll see. We'll see. And can I say this, guys, and to my sisters, this going to probably leave a bad taste in your mouth, but I got to tell you, that's why I think a lot of times the guys had it right with that. And, in some cases, hey, let's get to know each other and let's see. And we were just like, no, tell me what this is. Tell me what this is. Now, I got to be careful in that because you got to put a time limit on that. You got to put a time limit on it. I'll put 90 days on it. I'm sorry. Not within 90 days, I need to know what this is. I need to know what this is. You ain't going to string me along for 2 years. When I'm sitting up there talking about something, you be up there telling everybody, this is my friend Tiffany. And I'm like, well, yeah, you be kind of holding my hand and confusing me and all that. I don't know what this is. I don't understand females who allow themselves to be done like that. If you're that female, sis, I'm telling you right now, I want to study your brain. I want to know what would make you allow somebody to string you along for 2 years and you sitting up there and the dude keeps telling you that you are his friend. Please tell me what's going on in your head. I don't understand that. I genuinely don't understand it. And look, I genuinely don't understand it because we got brothers on here. To my brothers, tell me if I'm right. Men know if you the one within 90 days. Oh, I did the research. Men know if they want typically within a month or so, they know if they want to pursue you. Within 90 days, they know. They pretty much have an idea. I want to pursue her as a wife. And you allow yourself to get strung along 2 years, even a year. I'm going to go here. I don't care. I'm going to go here. I've literally seen women leave their churches. And when I say women, more than one woman. Make it make sense to me. Leave their churches following up behind men who have told them, let's just be friends. Please, somebody got to make it make sense to me. I've seen women walk out of churches that they have been in 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 15 years. Served in the ministry. Did all of that. And all it took was a dude that walked up into there and all he took him on one day and he said, well, I don't think I want to do a relationship with it now. Just, let's just build a friendship. And the female leave her church. Oh, listen, I love you. I already know. In this audience, the 300 folks that's on here, I probably got a couple of y'all on here and you're guilty. Don't feel ashamed. You got to let this convict you so you don't do that again. Leave a church over a man who hasn't even made a commitment to them. Listen, if I'm dating you, I ain't leaving my church for you. If we married, I have to follow you. That's different. If you have not made, that's a major commitment. But when you loosen the draws, you'll be loosening your commitments. I said it. When you desperate, they have a term called pick me girl. When you a pick me girl, I know we're dealing with triangulation, but God taking me here. When you a pick me girl, you never get picked. I'm sorry. I'm telling you, when you a pick me girl, you never get picked. I'm the one that gets picked all the time. That's why I don't date, because I don't want to get picked yet. No, I want to get picked when the right one comes along, but I don't want nobody picking me that I ain't picked. When you a pick me girl, nobody ever picks you. And some of the pick-me girls are gorgeous. Gorgeous to look at, but unhealthy in their minds. Rely on their beauty and think that that's enough. And will go everywhere with a man who said he don't want to commit to them, hoping that somebody gonna say, y'all look cute together, thinking that's gonna ask any brother on. Ask any brother. A man is not gonna choose you just because people say y'all look good together. A man is not going to choose you just because people say, I think you should date her. She seems to be really nice. Men are very solid creatures wherein once they make a decision that they don't want you, you ain't coming out that spot. Once they decide, now, I'm going to give you a little bit of revelation to my sisters. Humans like attention, female and male. If you're giving him your attention, he's not going to reject it. Oh, I got to be auntie and mama sometimes. Because I don't know who I'm talking to, but I'm talking to somebody out there in TV land and internet land or what have you. If you're giving him your attention and following him around, he's probably not going to tell you to stop. He'll just put a boundary up, and every time you try to get romantic or every time you start trying to get, possessive, he'll say, remember what I told you. Moral of the story is don't be a pick-me girl. Because they don't get picked. Can I tell you something? Sis, the ones that get picked are the ones that typically like, don't pick me. How do I know? Because I be the one saying, don't pick me. She's available. Men are not attracted to wigs and lashes. They're attracted to confidence. Call me a lie. I want the guys on here to tell me if I'm wrong. Please tell me I'm wrong. Tell me if I'm wrong. Because if I'm wrong, I'll go get some weaving glasses. I'll go get me some weaving lashes. I've thought about getting lashes anyhow just to play with them to see what they look like. But guys are not into that kind of stuff. Women are. Guys are not into that kind of stuff. Women are. Men are attracted to confidence. You can be a 2, a 3 on the world scale, but if you're confident, you can pull yourself a good-looking guy. That's why y'all be sitting up there looking. And you're like, how'd she pull him? Please don't get the lashes. Okay. But how'd she get him? He's attracted to her personality. Men are visual creatures, true. They're attracted to what they see, but they don't marry what they see. Typically, a man marries a safe place. He marries a place where he feels safe. That's what when he feels nurtured and safe, that's what he's gonna marry. That's what he's gonna marry. Is where he can go where there's peace and there's safety. Men don't marry the prettiest women that they get with. I got to get off of here because I feel like we're going into a whole other message. They don't marry the prettiest women that they've been with. I'm telling you. How do I know I've been married? I looked at pictures of my exes. One of my exes, his mama kept all the pictures. She had them on the wall. She just wanted you to feel it. You go up in the house, and I'm looking at these sisters like, she gorgeous. That's your ex? But somehow I got picked. They don't, I'm sitting there looking at the girls like, where's she at now? What happened to y'all? Because you know how we do. We just sit up there, we look at them female, we like, dang, she gorgeous. Well, y'all break up. Because then you get intimidated, you get scared. Dang, if you let her go, Why y'all break up? Men don't go out here and marry. Women got to get out of this mentality that I got to be the prettiest woman. Because I told y'all before, I love you. But many of you, you're putting more money on top of your head than you're putting in your head. Get a book, not a wig. You can get a wig, be cute all day long. But get some sense, I'm trying to tell you. Because you'll be sitting there blinking them lashes and talking. And you'll talk yourself right out of a relationship because you're going to recognize, hey, you're not a safe place because you don't have enough wisdom. You have not healed. You cute. You bodied. But you're not a place that I can come home to every day and basically just kick off my shoes and relax my feet. Party on down to the escape beat. You're not a place I can come and just chill. So I know we were doing triangulation, triangulation. But understand this. Heal. We can just go there in closing. Whatever you want is going to be found in God. But to get past the triangulation, just so I don't lose touch of the message we're having. I disagree that many men marry confidence. So why do men regret marrying a woman? Why do men regret marrying a woman? A man can regret marrying a woman if their relationships are not built, in this case, on love. Many times they're built on feelings. Call me a lie. It has nothing to do with confidence or lack of confidence. It has everything to do with a man will marry confidence. He marries a confidence, but a lot of times it's a feeling. American culture, and that's all around the world, people are attracted to feelings. So if we get in a relationship, if I get in a relationship with a guy, it's American culture for him to love bomb. It's world culture for the person to call me up and play some music in the background. And what we do, we like to get caught up in feelings with no substance. No substance means there's nothing on the inside. It's hollow. It can't take a blow. So we get caught up talking about, hey, what you doing? Nothing. How many kids you want? Why are you asking me that? Because I want to know how many kids you want. We get caught up in feelings. And then we marry those feelings. Then we get into the real world once we get married. And the feelings going to dissipate because feelings are just like alcohol. You're going to sober up. And if there's no foundation, if there's no substance, it can't take a blow. And so because there's no substance, many relationships can't take a blow. And whenever they get the blow, because the blow comes to every relationship. Every relationship is going to deal with the temptation of the other woman. So if you got him and you locked him in on feelings, guess how she going to get him? Through feelings. She going to appeal to his emotions, just like you appeal to his emotions. She will appeal to his emotions. Y'all will love bomb each other and play all types of music and call yourself in love. And now he's confused as to which female he wants. That's why relationships don't last. Relationships, it's not that people are getting married and, the woman loses her confidence. The relationships are ending. You're making it sound like if a man marries a woman, that woman got it together. Who told you that? Yeah, you're reading into it. We're going to move on from there. At the end of the day, heal. Heal. Marriage is a big mistake when two people come into it and they're not ready. But this is not a platform where we're going to go back and forth. Right? I got a whole audience that I have to talk to. We're going to put some revelation out here. Heal. Heal. How do you heal? At the top of this platform, you got to put God above all things. He says it this way, and I've said it before, and I'll say it again. Seek ye first the kingdom of God and all his righteousness, and everything else will be added to you. Seek ye first. God has to come first. And I'm going to be honest with you, that is not an easy thing if you've never seen it demonstrated. And when I say never seen it demonstrated, maybe you've seen religion. Maybe you've seen religion. You've seen people do go to church and they go out and they did all of the performances of church, and then they come home and they don't demonstrate the love of God. They come home and they drinking and they cussing and they doing whatever they want. Heal. I'll come to you, Just British, in a minute. Heal. It takes time to get to that space, and it takes intentionality. It takes intentionality. You have to start saying within yourself, I want to be that healed woman. I want to be that delivered woman. I want to be that woman or that man that God can rely on. I want to be that person that breaks the curse in my family. I want to be the person that gets beyond all of this stuff. I don't ever want my children to feel like they have to be pit up against each other. I don't want triangulation to happen in my family. You have to make that decision within yourself. And again, there has to be something greater than what your desires. The man cannot be the peak of your desires. You got to have something greater than that guy. Forgive the fingernails, they've been broken off or what have you. But there has to be something greater than marriage. Look to the hills when winds come at your hip. You got to put your eyes on God, and you got to keep them there. Now, it's easy to put your eyes on God from time to time, but there are so many distractions around us that at the end of the day, that what we do is well, God, he look good. And Lord's like, put your eyes back on me. Put your eyes back on me. You got to keep putting your eyes on God, intentionally, consistently putting your eyes on God. And it's not easy to do that, but I'm telling you, it's worth it in the end. Put your eyes on God. And what happens is, if you're dealing with a narcissist, they're not going to be attracted to you for too long, because a narcissist wants to be God in your life. They have to be number one in your life. A narcissist has to be at the top of the pinnacle, at the top of that pyramid. And anytime, just a little bit of revelation, this is the reason why some relationships end when you have children outside of marriage. Even sometimes in marriage, you marry a narcissist. When you have a child, that child, once that, because of course the mother's she's going to lavish her attention on that child, and the narcissist will feel competed with when it comes to that child. If it's a female narcissist, she'll have a daughter, she'll take care of her daughter, but then once that little girl turns about a year old or what have you, and she starts acting like a daddy's girl, always wanted her daddy, the mother can start feeling some type of way toward her daughter. She's never had a healthy relationship with another female, so for her, she look at her daughter. I'm just saying, you need to put her in her place. When it's a guy and a female has a baby, a lot of times he'll leave because the baby is getting all of the mama's attention. He'll leave because the baby is getting all of the mama's attention. Like, ever since you had the child, you just don't have time for me. Dude, this is your child. You think you'd be grateful. And then I'm over here trying to be a good mama to your child. But put God as number one. I don't want to elongate this process, but put God as number one. You do that by studying your word, going to church, being honest with God, not being religious with him. He's not interested in hearing you say the same old stuff. Our Father, which are in heaven. He's not interested in that. He's interested in hearing from you intimately. For you to open your mouth and say, God, this is where I am. This is what I feel. This is what I've experienced. This is, Lord, I can tell you right now, I can tell I'm still dealing with this issue. God, I want this gone. I don't want to constantly keep dealing with this. Give me wisdom, knowledge, and understanding. And understand when you say that, don't expect God to open your head up and pour sense into it. He's going to throw a book at you, a mentor. Half of the time, when you ask God for something, he sends a person. He sends a person. Or he'll send a book. Somebody may come and say, hey, you should get this book. You should invest in this book. But half of us, what we do is, God, I don't be liking to read. But do you want deliverance then? Do you really want to be free? Or you just want a magic spell to happen? You want somebody to come, open your head up, and put some sense in there. Because that's what we want most of the time. We want God to, and I've been guilty of that. I've been guilty of like, God, give me this. God, give me that. God, give me this. He throw a book my way. I don't really have time to read. God, give me this. He's like, no. You want to grow in this? Study and show yourself approved. Whatever you want, it's right here. I'm going to say this before I close. Wealth is not an abundance of money, it's an abundance of information that's rightly placed. I make sure I say rightly placed, because I've come across some intelligent fools. I've come across some people who have a lot of information. I remember coming across a guy when I was living in Florida, and he was an atheist because of all of the stuff that he read. He had filled his brain up with so much information, reading the Quran and reading the Bible and the Torah and reading, and of course the Torah is just the Old Testament, but reading, he had read every religious book known to man. He had a lot of knowledge, no wisdom. This is why God said, above all that getting, get understanding. Knowledge puffs up. That's why when you see a lot of religions, you can tell the guys, when they have a lot of knowledge, you can tell they're real prideful. Little prideful thing is typically put their hand under the nose, put their hand in the chin. They're like, keep talking. No, I'm about to educate you, sister. Keep talking. They start using language, and you can tell it's pride in them. It's just, they're full of pride, because knowledge, according to the Bible, puffs up. Knowledge will puff you up. Understanding will ground you. Thank you, Sister Sally. God bless you. Knowledge will puff you up, but understanding will ground you. Knowledge make you feel good that I know some stuff that you don't know. But understanding make you break it down. You have to chew it. That's what understanding is. It's taking that knowledge and chewing it and pulling all the nutrients, the revelation, and everything out of it and saying, aha, okay, now I get it. This happened. Okay, knowledge is what happened. Understanding is why it happened. Knowledge is what happened. I know what happened. I know this. I know that. Understanding is why it happened. So a lot of people, they come back and they be like, well, I've been through this, I've been there. Okay, you know what your mama did, you know what your daddy did, but do you know why they did it? They were broken. It doesn't justify, but at the end of the day, you break a curse by coming to the understanding, getting down to the why. Don't be so caught up in the fruit that you forget the root. Don't be so caught up in that. Don't get so caught up, because at the end of the day, if we cut the grass, then it's gonna keep growing up until we deal with the root of it. Until we go to the root of it, you cut the grass, you're gonna make your life look real pretty. You're gonna make yourself look real put together. But it's only a matter of time where it's gonna keep on growing up, and then that thing is gonna continue to produce fruit, or it's gonna produce seed, and that's gonna get all up in your lawn. I just recently had True Green come out to my yard. They did, they put that stuff to kill all the weeds in your grass and stuff like that. My grass ain't never looked this good since I've been living here. They did one treatment. But what did they do? That stuff, that chemical they sprayed, it killed the weeds. It deals with the root of the issue. It dealt with the root of it. So if you've been triangulated by a narcissist, if you've been manipulated by a narcissist, understand that the narcissist is a broken creature. Stop trying to fix them. Stop trying to villainize and demonize them. They're broken. Let it be. Come to the reality that, because I think a lot of times we think that we have to constantly keep putting the label on them that they are demons or they're wicked people. And it's like, at the end of the day, okay, you understand that, but then what? What behind that? I'm asking you a real question. This question is powerful enough, potent enough to deliver some of you. Okay, once you decide that, let's say, for example, if your mother's a narcissist, once you decide that, then what next? Why do you have to rehearse that in your head again and again, that she a narcissist, she's bad? Why do you have to rehearse it? Are you trying to convince yourself? Why don't you just go ahead and accept what state she's in, so that you can make a decision on how to place boundaries around yourself? Then you can place the right boundaries around yourself, and so that you can sit back and say, okay, you can't cuss me out. You can't call me out my name. You can't raise your voice with me. What keeps people in these type of relationships is hope. Is being too understanding. Yes, it can become problematic. What keeps people in these relationships is hope. The Bible says hope deferred makes the heart sick. When the Bible deals with the heart, it's dealing with the soul, it's dealing with the mind. So hope deferred makes you mentally ill. Hope deferred will break your brain. You have to sit back and say, this is what you have to do. I look at a lion. I say, that's a lion. Now I know what the lion is capable of. I have enough knowledge to know that that lion will eat me up, that I will be nothing but a chicken nugget in that lion's mouth. So because of that, because I know that's a lion, then I'm going to take the necessary precautions and make sure that I don't go anywhere near that lion, because I put a label on that lion. I know what that is, and I'm going to make caution. If I'm sitting up there saying, is that a lion? I'm not sure. I'm not going to take the necessary precautions. If I keep saying, I think that's a lion. Yeah, she show a lion. She show a lion. No, you have to be able to say, she's a narcissist. Then you have to put necessary boundaries around yourself to protect yourself from her behaviors. It has to be established. Hope deferred, that means hope delayed makes the heart sick. When the Bible talks about the heart, it's dealing with the mind. What if you gotta go, but you have a child? You gotta go, but you have a child. You love on the child. You make sure you keep all text messages from the narcissist. If they send text messages, you never say anything toxic. You get over your feelings, because narcissists have to use your feelings against you. Your emotions, we talked about this earlier. In a narcissistic relationship, a normal mind should look like this. The mind on top, the will, and then the emotions on bottom. An unhealthy mind looks like this. Emotions on top, will. So you do everything based on how you feel. So you never allow them, because what they have to do is to break you. Because if they can break your brain, they can break your mind, then what it does is it causes your emotions to begin to flow, because you're staying in your emotions. And so that's how a narcissist gets you emotional, is they keep you in your feelings. They keep you hurt. They keep you feeling scared. They keep you feeling rejected. They keep you feeling. And so emotions become the dominant expression. It becomes a dominant thing going on. And then so consequently what ends up happening is you start doing things, your will, because of your emotions, and your mind is at the bottom. So then you'll turn around and feel regretful after you've calmed down. You're like, man, why did I do that? Man, why did I say that? You don't do that. So what you have to do is, when they're trying to pull on your emotions, you never give them the opportunity. So for me, because I've had so many narcissists around me, I had to create a system in my life to kind of deal with, because they are always trying to trigger emotions. And so for me, one of the things, for example, one rule I have is, if somebody's trying to trigger me and they're upset with me and they send me a text message, I won't read the text. If they send me a voicemail, I'll delete it. I won't listen to it. If I'm talking to somebody and they start being negative, I'm hanging up the phone. I'll send a warning shot and say, hey, don't call me on my name. Don't do this. Don't do that. I won't argue back with them. I won't say, oh, see, you don't. I won't do that. Instead, I'll say, don't call me on my name. This is a fair warning. If they say, but I said, don't yell at me. Let this be the last time. No, you gonna click. That's it. They're going to because narcissists want a response. One of the worst things that you can do to a narcissist is not give them a response. They hate it, because the response shows them that the soul tie is still there. The response gives them the opportunity to monitor your life. They want to know what's going on in your life, what's going on in your head. It drives a narcissist mad to know that you're having a series of thoughts that they don't know anything about. They want to know everything in your head. So the way they get you to say everything in your head is by triggering you. They have to upset you. And so I don't let people have access to me to trigger me like that. I don't let them have access to trigger me like that. So what I do is, when it comes to, if I have a family member, for example, and they're yelling, I'm going to hang up the phone. When they call back, they're going to voicemail. If they leave me a voice message, I'm going to delete it. If they shoot me an email, I'm going to delete it. The whole time I'm cutting, like, they're not going to get the response they want. They're not going to trigger me emotionally. I'm not going to know what they think, and I'm not going to know what they said or what have you. If they take to Facebook and let's say they post up, something crazy on Facebook, I'll delete them off my Facebook profile. I won't even read what they posted up. What I'm doing is I'm pulling down any opportunity. If anybody comes out as a flying monkey, hey, what's going on between you and that person? I say, you need to ask them. She was saying, ask them. But I'll talk to you later. What I'm saying is I leave that person to figure that issue out on their own. So what I'm doing with that person is I'm saying, because they want a conversation, in order for you to have a conversation with me, it has to be in a healthy medium. I have a standard of communication. And if you're not willing to come to that standard, I'm not going into emotions with you. I'm not getting into emotions. I'm not about to start screaming. I'm not about to start crying. I'm not about to be name called or gaslighted or anything like that. What I say is basically, hey, you have to meet me right here. So when you're dealing with narcissistic people, they're going to throw a lot of tantrums. They're going to do everything to hurt you. A lot of times they refuse to come to your standard. So they'll threaten to take you to court. They'll send you text messages. They'll get other people involved. That's the triangulation. They'll start doing all of these things. You don't respond to any of that. Not court, you show up in court, you have text messages. All of your text messages should be, hey, sorry you feel that way. Okay. God bless you. When you go to court, you have a string of text messages showing them being unstable and emotional. You will win every time. Because what they're doing, when they are triggering you, they're trying to trigger a response that gives them leverage in that situation. So they want you to write them back and say, let's say she said, you got that girl. I don't want that girl around my child. I don't even know her. This, that, and the other. And she probably one of your many girls. You write back, or you don't say anything. The best thing to do is no response. Sorry, guys. Best thing to do is no response. But if you write back, you just write back, okay. You just write back, okay. So you don't go into this, oh, you dating somebody too, and this, that, and the other, because they actually need that in order to function. And so I wouldn't give them the conversation. Eventually, sometimes they'll go 2 years or what have you, but eventually they'll come around to want to have a conversation with you. And when they have a conversation, they see that, hey, you're willing to have a conversation. As long as we're not gaslighting each other, raising our voice or name calling, and we are open and we're teachable, you're willing to have a conversation, they're more likely to come to your standard. And I noticed that because, I did that with people in my life. I'm like, okay, in order for you to have a conversation with me, we have to have a non-accusatory conversation. You can't accuse me. You can't raise your voice. You can't cuss me out. You can't call me out of my name. Excuse me. What you can do, however, you can tell me if I'm wrong. If I do something, you can say, hey, you're wrong. That was wrong. Or that was this or that was that. I don't mind correction. I don't mind it. As a matter of fact, I welcome it. But when it comes to cussing folks out and doing things, then that's where the problem is. Also remember this. When you're dealing with narcissistic people typically like to present, they have to create a need for themselves in your life. When you're dealing with a narcissist, they have to create a need for you. They got to get you, create a need for themselves in your life. They got to get you to need them. They have to get you to need them. This is the reason why when you're getting a relationship with them, they're always trying to hurry up and have kids with you. They have to create some type of need. A lot of times, for example, I told you guys about my dad's best friend, how he used to get in relationships with women. And what he would do with them is he would start paying their rent. He created a welfare system. See, they already had a system where they were just paying their bills and going to work. But he would come into their lives and he would just begin to pay their rent. And not only did he do that, he would go buy them a new car. But he would never pay it off. He had the money to pay it off. But what he would do is he would go buy a car, like pay a down payment on a car. And he would put it in their name. And he would disguise putting it in their name as, well, some guys, they'll put it in their name just so they can control you. They can take it back from you whenever they mad. But I'm not that type of person. So I want to make sure I put it in your name. But really, he put it in their names because he knew he was going to leave them with the bill. And he didn't want that bill to fall on him. So what he would do was he would get into relationships with women and he would buy them the world. Like he would take them. This is one of the reasons why I teach this with women. Y'all got to stop walking around here letting guys give you your first experiences of everything. Put yourself on a cruise ship. Go travel the world. Go out the country. But what he would do is he would typically find women who were financially not doing so well. He would typically find women who were not doing so well financially, women who had no motivation. And he would get with these women and he would buy them the world. He would take them on trips. He'll take them out the country. He will buy them a car and he would put it in their name. And he would make it look like he put it in their name because he really cared about them. And he would turn around and once he was over, he would just discard the woman just like that. He would discard her with the car note and everything. And so now what he's created is a woman who's now not accustomed to paying her rent. She's used to using her money toward beautification, beautifying herself for him. She's used to using her money toward a woman who never got her nails on is now getting her nails on. She's used to using her money toward all of these things. And all of a sudden, she didn't have a car note. Maybe she had a car and he had her to get rid of her car. He was like, hey, we're going to exchange your car in for a brand new car. We're going to exchange your car in and we're going to put it in your name and I'll pay the note. And that's what he would do. He would pay the note for her and she would get used to him paying the note. And he would do that 6 months to a year. She would get accustomed to her paying. She would get accustomed to him paying the note. And then out of nowhere, no fight, nothing. He would just discard her. He would ghost her just like that. He would ghost her just like that. And now you got this woman freaking out because now she got bills she's not accustomed to paying. Maybe she didn't demoted herself on her job to part-time. She really, he proposed to her in front of people. She thought they were getting married. Now she got this car note. It was all about power. When he got bored with her, he would just discard her. It was all about power. It was all about power. That's it. It was all about power, manipulation, and control. Power, manipulation, and control. Narcissists like to target weak women. Narcissistic males. Narcissistic females like to target weak men. Let me see something. I want to pull something up. Where's my mouse thing? This thing be getting lost. Did it die, Lord? Okay. Give me a second. And I'm going to let y'all go because I know I said that. All right. 2 Timothy 3:1. And I'm going to read all the way up to probably 6. I'll read 6. I'll stop at 7. Well, no, I'll read 7. So 2 Timothy 3:1-7. This know also that in the last days which we are in, perilous times shall come. For men shall be lovers of their own selves, covetous, boasters, proud, blasphemers, disobedient to parents, unthankful, unholy, without natural affection, truce breakers, false accusers, incontinent, fierce, despisers of those that are good. They hate people that are good. Despisers of those that are good. Traitors, heady, high-minded, lovers of pleasures more than lovers of God, having a form of godliness but denying the power thereof. From such turn away. For of this sort are they which creep into houses and lead captive silly women, laden with sins, led away with diverse lusts, ever learning and never able to come to the knowledge of the truth. Who do they go after again? Did y'all hear who do they lead astray? I'm going to read it again because y'all got to hear it again. This know also that in the last days perilous times shall come. For men shall be lovers of their own selves, covetous, boasters, proud, blasphemers, disobedient to parents, unthankful, You be talking about it. You ain't got no gratitude. Unholy, without natural affection, truce breakers, false accusers, incontinent, fierce, despisers of those that are good, traitors, heady, high-minded, lovers of pleasures more than lovers of God, having a form of godliness, but denying the power thereof. From such turn away. For of this sort are they which creep into houses and lead captive silly women laden with sins, led away by what? Diverse lust. It's the imagination, the diverse lust that she has. Ever learning and never able to come to the knowledge of the truth. Put that wisdom in your head. Put that wisdom in your head. Can you ask the pastor for the gift of celibacy? No, it's not a gift. It's a decision. It's a decision. I wouldn't tell you have to remain celibate until you die unless the Holy Spirit tells you that. Don't say it from a place of hurt. Don't say it from a place of fear. Because if you get older, then you will regret making that confession over yourself. You know, maybe you get older and you decide, hey, I really do want a husband. I really wanted this or what have you. So don't say it from a place of fear. But they lead captive silly women. Women who are laden with lust. I just want to have a husband. I want to have a house. I want to have a car. I want to have this. I want to have that. I want to have this. Look to the hills from whence cometh your help. Your help coming from the Lord. You better put your eyes on the Most High God. Put your eyes up here. Your eyes gonna keep getting diverted. Put your eyes up here. Put your eyes up here. No, you have to bind it. You have to bind it. That's just hurt, sis. That's just hurt. You got to get past the hurt, okay? You got to get past the hurt. You know, pray it off of you. Bind that spirit. Tell that spirit where to go. And one of the things I say when the enemy comes against me like that, whenever I go to feeling heavy, I just tell him first and foremost, I say, I don't belong to you. You know, and I say, you have no right. You're not going to tell me what I'm going to do with my life. And then I'll tell him, I shall live and not die. I will live and declare the works of the Lord. So you have to be able to speak back. The enemy comes, leads silly women astray. Latin will lust. Lust is not always sexual. It just means ungodly desire. Did you know if you say, I want to have a house, a car, and kids, that can be a lust if it's an ungodly desire. If it's something that you want outside of God. If it's something that you want before God, it's called lust. What makes a desire godly is when you get God first. But if you want something else with God or before God, it's an ungodly desire. And that thing will always cause you great pain. Always. It will always cause you great pain. It will always bring you to a spot where you're just like, I'm over this. It will always cause you great pain. But if you get God first, and you put God first, and you keep God first, you will put all of your decisions on an altar. And you will allow God to purify your motives and your decisions. And there is nothing that you would allow to take his place in your life. Nothing. So you know what? You don't have to worry about being hurt. Now you can be disappointed, but not necessarily hurt, like the different levels of hurt that many of us have experienced. Why? The reason we deal with hurt is because we have a tendency to put God alongside something when we triangulate God. Let's go back to that since we've done it. We triangulate God. We turn around and we take the Most High God and he should be at the top. And you know what we do? We make ourselves equal to him. He's supposed to be up here. We put a man up on a pedestal to the women. We put him, then we try to make ourselves equal with him. We go to try to rationalize with God. Or we put ourselves up here and then we put God. We make a man equal to God. Which means we make him an idol. We make ourselves an idol. We put all these things before God, and these things hurt. I'm being honest with you. Take it from somebody who dealt with idolatry bad. I dealt with it bad. Most of us deal with it when we come from toxic, broken backgrounds. You're gonna deal with it. You're gonna deal with rejection, idolatry. It's so much you have to overcome. It is such a journey. It is a painful journey, a pain-filled journey. That's why you got to be intentional, consistent. You got to make sure that you're reading your word, praying, being honest with God, getting therapy. You got to fight your way out of that. You got to fight your way out of that. Because I'm telling you right now, there's a time where it makes sense to put somebody first. It makes sense to put self first. It makes sense because you don't know God like that. It makes sense. And a lot of times we make sense of it because we keep telling ourselves, I still want God. It's not like I'm getting rid of him. I'm still Christian. I'm still going to church. I'm still serving in church. And God is like, that's not enough. I have to be number one so that I can sanctify your decisions. I got to be number one so I can purify your motives. But we have a tendency, we put our desires first. This is what gets us hurt. I'm telling you right now. This is what gets us hurt. When you put yourself up there, and I've been up on the top of the pyramid plenty of times. Up here, me. I'm a good person. I'm not a bad person. I just wish. And boy, you talk about the crushing of the Lord. You talk about pain. You talk about suicidal thoughts. Because suicidal thoughts are many times nothing but a temper tantrum of the immature. It's a temper tantrum. You won't give me what I want, and I want to die. I'm telling you this so some of y'all can understand that's where you are. It's just, I'm having a tantrum because I want this and you won't give it to me. Why? Because you ain't dead yet. You got to die to yourself. And when you don't die to yourself, that part of you that ain't dead will tell you to kill yourself. Oh, no, I'm not talking about you, Sister Jessica. That part of you that's not dead, you have to put God as number one. And I'm telling you right now, that's not an easy decision. Because if you used to being number one, you'll put God up here, and then you'll keep coming up here. You'll keep coming up with God. I mean, can we just share this spot? I rule from the north, you rule from the south. Come on, God. Come on, I'm giving you a spot in my life. Come on, please. What are you talking about? If I go down here, you're going to bury me. You're not going to give me you're not going to give me what I want. Come on, God. Oh, yeah, you can go to the land of demons, like casting out demons. I cast out demons, but I may not be celibate all my life. I may not be abstinent all my life. I mean, I'm going to be abstinent until I'm married, obviously. But once I get married, I ain't going to be abstinent no more. And I'll be casting out demons still. I'll be casting out of my husband if he come home manifesting. Okay, baby, lift your hands. It's time. It's time. Can I be warm and cold at the same time? No. Understand this. Temperatures determine the condition of a thing. I got chicken in the refrigerator. I need to cook it tomorrow. If I don't cook it, it's probably going to go bad. In order for me to preserve it, I need to freeze it or I need to heat it. But in the refrigerator, the temperature is not cold enough for it to preserve. So it's going to start breaking down. And I'm going to be honest with y'all, I have had to throw away plenty of food for it sitting in my refrigerator, packs of chicken. And I'm like, dang it, the thing has been there. Let me look at the date on there. Look at the date. And I'm like, crap, that's trash. Large thing, because I be buying from Sam's Club sometimes. So you have to say, I'm all in for you, God. It's all or nothing. And understand this. Don't beat yourself up if you find that you are lukewarm, because a lot of times that just means you're a babe. When you're a babe in Christ, you will be lukewarm. When you're a babe in Christ, oh, listen, I had a friend when I was living in Florida. Oh, I used to get this woman bags and bags of groceries. She used to come over to my house and she was like, what you got up in there? I'm like, please go through there because there's a lot of stuff I'm going to throw away. Please go through there. And I would just bag up stuff. I'm talking about $200-$300 worth of groceries. I was like, she's like, Tiffany, I ain't even got to go to shopping for the next couple of weeks. I'm like, I know. I got to get myself out. I gotta do something. I gotta make some adjustments to my life. Oh, what have you. So put God first. I'm gonna keep saying that, y'all. So always come back down to it. God's got to be first. I'm telling you that from somebody that did not put God first. That had been a fight in my life. It was a struggle, and I had to go through so much hurt. And God sent me so that y'all don't have to go through it. He sent me so you don't have to go through all that hurt. So I can warn you. So I can say, hey, listen. So look at it this way. I had to deal with the fire so you wouldn't have to get burned. Thank you. Thank you. So you wouldn't have to get burned. I can come and tell you, hey, listen, I done been up that side of the mountain. I done put me first many a times, and it always hurt. It always came back down to me being crying, me being in pain, and sometimes even feeling suicidal. This is one of the reasons I tell people all the time. I see people holding on to stuff, and I be like, let it go. A lot of times when people become hurt and suicidal, it's because they won't let something go. It has nothing to do with life being unfair. It has everything to do with what they won't let go of. Most of the time, majority of the time, 98, 99% of the time, when people get to that point, it's just something they won't let go of. I want to be married. Let it go. Let it go. Just say, I want to live my life and I'll live it for you, God. And, I give my life over to you. Yes, I do have a desire to be married, but Father, I will serve you all the days of my life, even if you never give me a husband, because I understand that I belong to you. Your name be glorified in my life. You said you give me the desires of my heart, so I'm going to bring that to your remembrance, and my desire is to have a husband. But yeah, you got to open up and you got to just give it over to him. And when you do that, I've learned, this is my experience, and then it is 2:24. I'm going to be over here at 2:27. I've learned this. One of the analogies I use is when you put something on the altar, it doesn't die. Most of the times when you kill it or you take it to the altar and you stab it, it's going to get off of the altar and follow you. You got to pick it back up and take it to the altar and slaughter it again. And you got to take it, and every time you look around and find that thing following you, the desire to get married, the desire for this, the desire, even the desire to, I want my mama to finally love me. If she's toxic, you probably never get that relationship with her. Right, dethrone it. I love it. You have to sit back and just say, you know what? Your will be done in my life. My life doesn't look the way I want it to look because you got a plan for me. And you know what? I can't necessarily say I trust your plans for me yet, because there's a stage when you're there. But I will say, I'm saying yes to you. Help me, God. Father, heal my unbelief. Over the course of time, God will he will help you to see what he's done with me. My life does not look the way that I planned it at all. Like, seriously. But it does look way better than I planned it. It really does. It looks better than I planned it. Now, in the beginning, I did like everybody else. I threw a temper tantrum because I've been planning my life all my life. I had all these beautiful plans and stuff like that. I was going to be married to the fine guy. I was going to have the snatch waistline. Lord, what happened? I was going to have 2-3 beautiful children and all of these things. And it was going to be beautiful. It's going to be wonderful. And I went about trying to make my plans come to pass. But it's only the plans of the Lord that will be established. I went about doing all of this stuff. And every time I tried to establish my plans for my life, now realizing that I'm here for a purpose, me and God went into a tug of war. No, please let me have, please. I don't want to live no more then. I don't want to live. I'm tired. We went back and forth plenty of times. Finally, I matured enough to say, I give it to you. You can have it. My life, I give it to you. No, I don't want to die. I will live and declare your works. I die to myself. So do what you want in my life. I may not like it right now, but I give you my life. I give you my life. Then a guy come up and he like, what's your name? I'm like, where are you in Christ? I mean, I believe in the big man upstairs. That's a test, temptation. Yes, we're in the end times, but end times doesn't necessarily mean that the world's going to end today. It doesn't mean it'll end in 100 years. They were in the end times when once Jesus died on the cross. So we don't know how long, but we are getting closer. We're getting closer. How does one deal with older men trying to cheapen her or play? Because people take advantage of the nice or respectful nature. What do you mean by that? I would need context. How does one deal? Thank you, Sister Tasha. God bless you. How does one deal with an older man trying to cheapen her or play? It's all about access. I think it all boils down to the word access for me. That older man wouldn't have access to me. You know, we can't complain about people who have our phone number. Like, you can't give a person access and then complain about what they do with that access. Once I see what you do with the access, then I will remove the access if you're toxic. So thank you, Sister Bev. God bless you. Thank you. But I will remove the access if the person is toxic. So if he happens to be a neighbor, you draw a boundary. You know, you go out your house and he's like, hey, how you doing? I keep walking. I would ignore him. I would completely ignore him. You know, what have you? If he's being perverted or what have you, said something out of line, I would go and I say, hey, listen, stop talking to me. And that's it. Stop talking to me, or don't say that to me, or what have you. If he's on a job, you communicate that with him. Mr. Earl, I don't appreciate you talking to me like that, and that's outside of company policy. So I'm kindly asking you to refrain from using that type of language with me, because I don't want to take this any further than this moment right here. So let's just end that right here, okay? Let's be cordial, but let's also keep it professional. I feel like I'm never going to meet someone to spend my life with. I'm hopeless at this point. How do I come to terms with this? You don't come to terms with that. One of the things that happens in the process is that you actually do go to a stage like that. So when you get up as you ascend the pyramid or the mountain of the Lord, as you get toward the top, it's going to feel like you'll never get married. Because now you're becoming different, unique. You're standing out from the rest. You're growing into who you are. And you're not necessarily going to be on every man's menu, because the men at the bottom, and I've done that pyramid before. I'll see if I have another one, so because I be throwing away paper, y'all. Let's see here. All right, I'll tell you what. Forget it. I got a ton of notebooks up in this house. I buy them. All right, I'm going to show you this. Okay. This is the world's pyramid. All of it is triangle to me. All right. And this is the ugly. All right, so right. When it comes here, wait a second. Forgive me. Mountain, all of these are steps. These are the steps. The steps we order the process that we have to go through. We all start off here, regardless of what our parents teach us. We all start off at the bottom. in understand that the top of your parents' the top of your parents' mountain may be your bottom step. So it's not necessarily your peak. You're going to have to go higher or further than that. So down here at the bottom, and this represents the world, everybody having sex with everybody. It's girlfriend, boyfriend, recycle. It is just, I'm sorry, it's just an orgy. It's just an orgy. This is commonplace. This is what we define as normal. This is what we define as normal. Most people, even Christians, are down here. We do not like not being normal. We hate it. The hardest thing to get to is to get past being normal. Because as you begin to ascend this, now, when you're down here, I'll say what I used to say in the world. If I want a boyfriend, I could just go outside. That's how I said in the world, because it was so easy. It was the men down here were for the streets. They say nowadays they were for the streets. It was just the guys down here. Nobody's committed. Nobody's faithful. You got a lot of women down here who are trying to commit, but they won't commit to God. It's just one big orgy. Everybody dating everybody. Everybody competing, low self-esteem because you're in a low spot. Everybody, we buying new wigs and contact lenses. Everybody trying to stand out. We fighting. We want, come on, somebody like me. Look at me in my eyes. See, I can cook. Look. But there's no distinguishable characteristic about you that causes you to stand out from the rest of the females. Matter of fact, if you go by the world system, regardless of how pretty you are, there's always somebody prettier. There's always somebody more body. There's always somebody who has long. So it is a mess down there. It's a mess down there. Everybody trying to learn something that makes them stand out, but it's never enough. It's never enough. So the system or the plan of God is that we ascend, and we can call this the mountain of the Lord. Why did I draw it like that? All right, this is the mountain of God. The goal is for us to ascend this mountain. How do we do that? Study and show yourself approved. Approved for what? The next level. Because every level is like school. When you go to school, you got to study, you got to do all this. You go through all the tests or what have you. Then you pass the first grade. Then you move up to the second grade. If you don't pass, you have to repeat that grade. Repeating that grade is the same as going around a mountain. So you have to study, you got to keep going through the process, and then you ascend again, and then you ascend again, and you ascend again. High school or life looks like this. You graduate right here. You graduate right here. But that's not the top of the mountain. You can go to college. You can go to med school. You can go to law school. You got to keep going up, 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 up. You got to keep going. But the more you go up, the less options you'll have. If that makes sense. Because everybody down here. And you ain't going to want nobody. So you've already disqualified them unless you got low self-esteem. You've already disqualified them. As you go up that mountain, you like, I don't want a man that's this. I don't want that. So your self-esteem goes up with you. Your self-esteem. Now, some women can go up the mountain in career, but they never deal with their issues. And counseling is deal with their issues spiritually, so they end up staying low. And so they'll go up in career, but they'll still stay down here in thought. And that's why they end up in a relationship with somebody down here. And what they do is they help bring that guy to another level. And consequently, he can't handle that level because he's never been to that level. So they get him dressed up. They put some nice clothes on him or what have you. And now he's looking at women the women that used to act sedated to him in high school. They roll their eyes at him in high school. They put their head in the air in high school. Now he got access to him. He didn't have access in high school because he was broke. He was common. He wasn't the preferred. He wasn't the star quarterback or what have you. But now all of a sudden, those women who never gave him attention in high school are like, hey, how you doing? So he doesn't have enough strength to overcome that temptation because God didn't call him. He doesn't have the substance, the substance or the weight to root him on that level. He doesn't have the substance or the weight to root him on that level. So as you go up here, you're going to disqualify yourself from here. You're going to have 85 to 90% of men. You disqualify yourself from all of these guys. The more you go up, now when you get up here and you start getting up the levels, you're gonna find ain't nobody checking for me no more. My goodness, ain't nobody check. Like, where the dudes at? Where are they? Your conversation will scare off the majority of them, because when they realize I can't girlfriend you, I can't put you in, I can't lock you in, like I can't play games with you until you be friends. And you know, past 3 months, after 3 months, I got to put a definition to this thing. When they realize that they don't even play games with you, they don't play games with you. When you get to, as you ascend that, it is normal to feel like you'll never get married. It is normal to feel like that because now you got standards. And hear me when I say this. Coming from a person who never had those level of standards, when you get to a new level of standards, it's like, I'm in a place I've never been before. I realize I need a mentor. I need somebody to help me to understand where I'm at because I don't feel right. They can't son you, right? As you get up here, what you're doing, understand this. God is at the top of this mountain. What you're doing is you want to go under him. What he wants you to do is he wants you to become a daughter before you become a wife. Now, we can say we're daughters of the Most High God, and we are. We're children of the Most High God. But when I say daughter, what I'm talking about, let me go to the scriptures. Galatians 4:1. Now, I say that the heir, as long as he is a child, replace that with she. Now, I say that the heir, as long as he is a child, does not differ at all from a slave, though he is master of all, but is under guardians and stewards until the time appointed by the Father. Even so, we, when we were children, were in bondage under the elements of this world. But when the fullness of time had come, God sent forth his Son, born of a woman, born under the law, to redeem those who were under the law, that we may receive the adoption of sons. So here, this is the New King James Version. The heir, which we are heirs. As long as we are a child, that means immature. Does not differ from a slave, though he be master of all, is under guardians, and King James Version says governors, but you're under tutors, mentors, leaders that's going to teach you. The heir different nothing, meaning the inheritance the heir can't touch until the heir matures. So there are certain things that you can't access until you get to a certain level of maturity. Like when it comes to a husband, God does not give husbands to daughters that have not matured yet. Most of us have not fully matured. You know, a lot of times we are still kind of hurt. We're still dealing with rejection. We're still dealing with fear. We're still dealing with insecurity. We're still dealing with timidity. You know, what have you. So God is still, I can say, for example, one of the areas God is working on with me is my eating. I haven't matured in that area. So what God does is as long as you're a child, there are certain things that you don't have access to. There are certain things that you can't have. You can pray for them all day long, but as long as you're immature in that area, there are certain things. But the Bible says, now I say that the heir, as long as he is a child, and that means as long as they're immature, does not differ from a slave. A slave has no inheritance. Though he is master of all, but is under guardians and stewards until the time appointed by the Father. Now, the time appointed means season. And when we talk about season is not just a place of time. It's a place, it's a mindset. It's the moment when you graduate into a certain mindset. Even so, when we were children, we're in bondage of the elements of the world, meaning you were moved by your feelings. You were moved by the things around you. You were moved by what you saw. You were moved by opinions of people. When we are children, when we're immature, all of these things move us. All of these things bother us. But when we mature, then we start to go, we're able to reach into our inheritance. And I'll say it this way. Think about it this way. When you're 3 foot tall and 6 years old, there are certain things you can't reach because of your height. God uses that to, so, and what we do as parents is we'll put stuff on the top shelf that can be dangerous to the child or something that the child shouldn't have access to. We put stuff up. That's what God does. God will put stuff up here that you can't reach until you get up there. That's what maturity is, just really growing in the spirit. He will put stuff up here that you want, but you have to go through the steps. What we have a tendency to do is we'll try to figure out another way to get up there. They want to be friends with her. I'm going to hang out with her. I'm going to marry him. We try to figure out other ways. These are our personal Tower of Babels that we attempt to build. But God always confuses the language, drives the folks out of our lives, and then we have to start all over again until we realize that, hey, listen, I literally have to go up these steps. Like, there is no way around it. And honestly, every Christian, all of us go through that where we have a stage of immaturity where we try to figure our way around it. I've done it, like, okay, well, there's got to be another way. Jesus said, I am the way, the truth, and the life. No man comes to the Father except through me. There is no other way. You have to go through the steps. So the step can be, this particular season, God says, I want to highlight therapy. I want you to get healing. I want you to get therapy. I want you to get deliverance in this season. We be like, oh man, I want to go through that. This season, I want you to have a mentor. Oh, this season, I want you to serve in church, but I gotta make a commitment, Lord. He's like, yes, you said I want to be a wife. I'll give you that, but there are some things in you that will destroy your marriage. So I want to take you through the steps of ascension so that I can give it to you. So your husband is up here on this step here. He ain't up here because God is your everything. Your husband on this step here. But a lot of times we get stuck down here. We get stuck because we get caught up in our feelings. We get stuck because we be like, oh, I got to climb some more, Lord. I remember trying to climb up Stone Mountain, and I was like, the devil is a lie. But that's because of what I've been putting in my body. But we have to go through the steps. Most believers try to find a shortcut, and that's just a sign of immaturity. And we've all been there. We all go through stages of immaturity. We'll try to find another way. I'm going to get married. I'll just marry this guy and I'll bring him to church. I'm not going to wait on him to get his life right with the Lord. I'm going to take him to church. And I'm going to push him. I'm going to motivate him. I'm going to manipulate him. I'm going to do whatever I can to make him get his life with the Lord, right with the Lord. So we find fixer-uppers. We take this dude to church. We up in the house or what have you. We try to show him that, hey, I could be a nice little church woman. Praise the Lord. When we get home, I can be everything that you want me to be. I can be great. And then we take him to the church. And what we're trying to do is we're trying to rush the process. Like, we're trying to fulfill our own. Like, we're doing the Sarah. We're going to call it a dance. We're going to call it the Sarah. What we're doing is we're doing the Sarah when Sarah said, hey, go sleep. The partner is going to, I'm an old woman. And God talking about, I'm going to have a child. Go in there and go sleep with a handmaid. So we try to find our own shortcut to the blessing. Right. We try to find our own shortcut to the blessing. And when you do that, what we do is this is what God let us do. We'll get to this step here illegally and then fall down the steps. And he will keep doing it. And there are people who are 60 and 70 years old who still down here falling off the steps. Still down here falling because they haven't got the revelation yet. They haven't got the wisdom yet to understand, hey, there is no other way around it. So a lot of times what people do is they'll try to go to the other side of the mountain and they'll try to ascend. And this is a slippery slope. They don't want to go through the steps. They don't want to go through the process of healing, going to church, serving in church, dying in themselves, having to confess their sins one to another, having to not forsake the assembling together of the saints to get therapy. They don't want to go through that. Consistently reading the Bible and praying and fasting. They don't want to go through that. So they say it's got to be another way. That is the sound of the American church. There's got to be another way. It's got to be. We can't. It can't just be this way, because my journey is hard. All of our journeys are hard. Some harder than others, And so that's the thing. You just start respecting the steps. That's what I've learned to do, is respect the steps. I can be on a step like, I don't want to be here. I don't want to be on this step. I can see all the blessings up ahead of me. Makes me want to run up the steps, but I ain't in the mood. I'm tired. I ain't trying to fall down the steps. So hopefully that helps. I love me some y'all. I said I was gonna be out here at 2:37 and I failed the test. But I love y'all. I pray that this message blessed you. Do me a favor. Do me a favor. If this blessed you, please like and share. Consider sowing a seed into the ministry. My people have left me. My moderators have left. I think you can consider sowing a seed. Thank you, thank you. If it's something that blessed you, be sure to go to Amazon and type in the Grown Girl Coloring Book, Tiffany Buckner. Please get your copy. Please get your copy. It's very therapeutic, very revelatory, and I do believe that it's going to bless your life. And please leave me a review. I would love to hear from y'all. I love y'all, and I will talk to you soon. Bye bye.